Yeah, you could like be floating out in outer space or something.
That's true. Could do a lot of things.
You could do whatever you want with a green screen.
Yes.
Any background, really.
Yes.
Anything.
Yeah. This is all
You
very
could
true.
be in a forest. You could be inside of a whale's belly.
Mm.
You could be in a Chuck E. Cheese.
Could be.
You could. Anything you wanted.
Anything you wanted. That's the way you get it.
Anything you wanted. That's the way you need
Yeah.
it.
Well, what's new with you other than the kids being fuckers?
Oh, that's nothing new.
Yeah, I know.
But
I
it
know
was
that was a
extra shitty
joke. Didn't
because,
land. That
well,
was a failed
my
joke from a
parents are
single
visiting.
person to a parent. Usually parents don't find my humor funny about the woes of parenting because I don't have the empathy. I just
Yeah,
like to mock.
you have no idea.
Yeah, I know I don't. That's the
It's
point.
yeah, it's pretty gnarly, man.
I don't want to have
Especially when a
anybody.
kid is sick, you know?
Yeah.
Like when a toddler is sick, it just compounds. And then my parents are visiting for the weekend. So
Ooh.
that's like, they might as well be smoking meth, dude. Like grandparents, yeah. Get some real amped. And then yeah, tomorrow we're going to the pumpkin patch
Ooh.
on a Saturday.
Good old
So
pumpkin patch Saturday.
it's gonna be like the fucking purge out there, dude.
Oh, yeah, every jabroni's
Just a
gonna be
bunch of
out there
8-year-olds
trying to get their shit together.
just being lawless, dude. It's gonna be like January 6th at the pumpkin patch.
I'm sorry, dude. That's rough. Like I said,
Yeah.
to be 100% real, I do not envy parenthood one iota.
Yeah, there's parts of it, I
No,
guess,
there's
that
not.
are alright,
That's just what people say because they wish they could go back on their decision.
Yeah.
Just,
Oh, yeah. I'm
yeah,
just
right.
convincing myself.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's like buying a
Yeah.
piece of shit car that you just got to keep telling yourself is something you like, but you're like, fuck, man, this
Yeah,
piece of
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Fucking hate this.
Yeah, my
goddamn
kids are like Kia
speeder.
Sorrentos.
You got, that's a good way to put it.
No,
I mean,
I
all
love
kids
them.
are like Kia Sorrentos, I would say. Yeah, not just yours. I'm sorry, I'm not just harping on your children specifically. I should mention I'm harping
No, mine are
on
pretty
all
bad. But
the vast world of children. They're not all bad, and some are all right. They're in doses. I like having my moments at skate parks with them. You know, teaching them a thing or
yeah,
two, then
teach them how to do
sending them
kickflips.
away. Yeah, to the person that deals with all the
Yeah, they're
nonsense.
fun when they're not your kid.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
You can only like being a grandparent's really the best because they just get the fun aspects of it and then don't have to deal with the other shit. They don't have to try to get them to sleep later that night.
Exactly.
Once they've hopped
Yeah.
them out. You know?
Yeah, out of my 4 brothers, we only got the one grandkid, and I got one niece. And she's cool. I'm teaching her to skate. They're in Arizona. They got like the famous kind of water irrigation ditches behind their house. So I was showing her last time I was down there. She just turned 5,
Oh,
I think. Yeah, I was showing her how to skate the irrigation ditch. She was
the
hyped.
canal,
The canal, yeah, basically the Arizona ditches.
the
It's
irrigation canal.
famous.
We got one of those.
Skateboarding. Yeah, but okay. Yeah, I think East Washington would. Yeah, might have that
Yeah,
as well.
we got
Yeah.
irrigation. All sorts of canals, man.
Irrigation. Yeah. So
I didn't know they let you skate in those.
Well,
Is
I mean,
that
it's like
frowned
come on,
upon?
I'm probably not. It's perfect walls. I mean, it's like banks and dude, the one in Arizona they go
Yeah.
for like miles, and they're at like a steady grade downhill, so you can just for like a whole half
Oh,
mile
wow.
just wall to wall to wall, and yeah, and it's just natural skate park. But no, it's like
That
behind
sounds fun.
housing developments. No one gives a shit. No, at least no one fucked with me when I was doing it.
I bet some people would give a shit, man.
I'm sure. I'm sure
People that
there's
are in like
yeah.
HOAs.
Totally. There's some crotchety motherfucker looking out their blinds like, what's going on out
Yeah.
there? Someone having fun in that utility,
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
having fun out there.
That's not for fun.
Fuckers.
That's for utility purposes
Yeah.
only. Fuckers. Skate
bet.
and destroy,
Yeah.
man. Anyway,
Ugh,
getting the young one
I
hyped. That
hate
was the
people
point of
like
that
that.
story. Getting the young ones hyped is something I do enjoy. So sorry, children of the
Mm.
world. I didn't mean to start this podcast out by hating on y'all. I just had to.
Nah, fuck
I saw
kids, man.
my
Fuck
my
them
window and I
kids.
took a shot.
Yeah.
Because I had this
Yeah.
parent right in front of me who was late to this podcast because of
I know.
his drooling
Yeah.
children.
Yep. I don't even know if the youngest one's really asleep yet.
Fuck 'em.
So
Sorry.
might hear some. What?
Dad, what's Dad's talking about? Dad's using words I've never heard him say before. What's that
Yeah.
long hair weirdo mushroom shirt doing on his computer screen? Dad likes really weird
Who's this
porn.
Who's this wizard he's talking to?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. How was your week, though? Did you do anything fun?
Oh man, it's been a fun week of grinding on exactly this: Zoom calls, handling lawyers and editing their videos, and so I'm right in my wheelhouse right now, man. I'm back at work, getting the recording going, running Zoom shit. So this is nice to be doing it for my purposes. All the people I gotta run, push buttons and record their fucking hoo-ha. Now it's my turn.
Yeah.
So thanks for
that. Doesn't sound so bad.
No, it's all right, man. Especially where I'm at. I'm up in.
calls.
Well, I mean, there's a lot more. There's a lot of back end to it. The actual like run of show, the hour or two call is the easy part. It's all the fucking coordination and figuring out. I mean, because a lot of these clients don't know what they need, and you got to figure it out through long strings of emails and back and forth and dates changing.
They don't know what they want.
Not always, dude. Not always. A lot of people have like ideas of what they think they need, and that's what. Yeah, someone like us as a professional kind of needs to kind of hone them in, because they just kind of throw the raw details at you, like, oh, I have all this needs for an event, and this is what I think needs to happen, and we can kind of whittle it down, like, well, this is what's actually gonna happen,
Okay.
type thing. Yeah. So, I don't know. A lot of people just don't know the I guess the technical requirements to do their broadcast, but
They ask for too much.
yeah, and and our philosophy is always, simpler the better, obviously. The less, strings you have, the less contingencies for failure. So I always try to keep it to a simple form, but some people try to overcomplicate it. You gotta rein those fuckers in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're dealing with lawyers. Everyone knows what lawyers are like. They're not easy to rein in. Lawyers they are very sure.
I have no experience.
You have no experience.
I remember the lawyer that got eaten by the T-Rex.
But
when he was on the shitter.
yeah, but just like the general stereotypes of lawyers. Right. I mean, come on. Yeah.
The only one that's on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer.
That's what I'm saying. They know none of them have a good rap. Sorry, lawyer. I don't mean to start all this harping on people. I like lawyers too, but
the world needs lawyers.
That's true.
Right?
But anyway, that's how my week was. That's how it was. Immersed in lawyership and a little skateboarding at the end of the days, and here I am. But I will say it's all child free, so so it's been great.
I really like your shirt that you're wearing, dude.
Yeah, dude, this is
that is
fun story behind it
drip.
too. Well, it's mushroom season, and these are all gourmets. These are like some chanterelles.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. These are
mushroom season.
It is, dude. It's fall.
Yeah.
Come on, where you grew up in Washington? These are gourmets.
Well, it's 85 degrees over here, man.
It's gonna be 80 on Sunday here in fucking Skagit Valley. It is very weird.
Strange.
Mid October. Yeah, the leaves haven't even started changing color yet. Like things in my yard are still actively growing. Like they should all be dying by now and dropping leaves, but I have bushes that like should have dropped leaves by now and they're still like yeah, it's weird, dude. I mean,
it's like the world forgot that it was supposed to be fall.
What's even more bizarre is that
what day?
Nobody really acts like it's abnormal. Everyone's just kind of tooling around like it's always been like this, but no.
Have you talked to anybody older than the age of 50? Because they'll definitely let you know.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, as I say, most people. I'm just saying, like when you're out and about.
Can you believe this?
Yeah.
Can you believe how hot it is?
I mean, yeah. Well, when you're like out and about, though, I mean, people just seem to be like, going.
Well, yeah, because it's comfortable. It's nice.
I know.
I'm not gonna say no to it.
I know.
It's just weird.
But you think there'd be more like
odd.
Corner store philosophical discussions going on, like, hey, hey, Roy, what's going on with the weather out there? Oh, well, I don't know. Sure ain't like last year.
It's a Indian summer or something. I don't know. They always have some like weird term for it.
Exactly. Caused by a weather balloon.
Well, they're going to
that now.
Climate change.
Bill Gates, geoengineering. You want to go down that rabbit hole now?
Yeah, maybe.
We can.
Yeah, we should probably do an episode on that.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll chalk that one up. We got some things in line for today. Yeah, we
put
can
it in the chamber.
introduce the topic of today. I know you got some good
Oh yeah,
stuff baking in the oven for us to chit chat about. I got a couple
yeah, dude.
little tidbits. I know we had a little prep conversation yesterday, which was good. So yeah, I think we'll roll with some of those things we want to
Yeah.
present.
So for this episode, I read The Giza Power Plant by Christopher Dunn. Um, so Christopher Dunn is an engineer, a machinist, very knowledgeable technical science guy, right? And he
Is
has a
that his
very
official term?
yeah, technical
Knowledgeable
science guy,
technical science guy.
knowledgeable technical
He
science guy.
he earned
Yeah,
it,
that's
I'm
what it says
sure.
on his PhD.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
earned it.
no, but he's a very smart guy. You can tell reading his book. He's very, very intelligent. And he has a really interesting theory as to what the Great Pyramid really is. So, what about you? Do you have any
So
knowledge of the Great Pyramid?
as a setup, there's the topic. We got to get a little better at this introducing. This is the Yim Yam podcast
Oh yeah,
episode
shit. Yeah,
episode 3.
We should probably say the
It's all good. We
name
got
of
it
the
now. It's
podcast.
official. But that's good setup. There's
Yeah,
the topic, episode 3 of the Yim Yam, officially underway.
yeah, dude.
Yes, yes. So I like
Oh
that.
yeah,
Starting out basically with the Great Giza Power Pyramid.
the Giza Power Plant.
The
Is what it's
Giza
called. It's a
Power
really good
Plant.
book.
Power Mid. Is that a thing?
Power Mid.
Power
Oh
Mid.
shit. Yeah, the Power Mid.
How did they
That's
not?
good.
How did they miss that back in
Yeah, it
the
was right there. How did he miss that? I mean, if you've seen this guy in interviews, like he
No.
is dry as a bone, dude.
I
Like
can only imagine.
no, like if you wanted to, I mean, not to besmirch the dude because he's a really smart guy, but like
Sure.
I mean, if you can't sleep or something, just put on one of his lectures, dude, because it's like,
He's as
oh my,
dusty
it's
as the sands of the Sahara.
yeah. Well, as the sands in the Nile, right? There you go.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Talking about Egypt, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So what is your knowledge of the pyramids? Have you always been interested in ancient Egypt?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, yeah, I was always drawn to it more, and like, not necessarily even like a intellectual fascination, if it makes sense. It was always more of, as
Hmm.
to use the term resonance, whatever that means. But it felt like more like, I don't know, like a I don't know, familiarity with it, like something that just like struck me. It's like anything else you're drawn to as a kid. You don't usually know why you like it. It just made sense, and
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
felt
right.
like that way of life, like in some weird way, just I don't know. It was always really appealing to like witness it more than anything. You know what I mean? I didn't really care about the scientific details so much, but it was more like, imagining what it was like to be there. That's why I've always liked history and going to like historical sites, because I feel like I can like kind of feel like on more of like an emotional level, like what it was like to actually be there in that day and time, if that makes sense. Versus like the details of the facts of the matter. I think, it's kind of like anything else. History leaves a resonance that can be picked up on. And I don't know, Egypt was always one that,
So you feel like you are connected to it, kind of?
I don't, like I said, I don't know where the feeling comes from. Other than I'm just saying, like
Yeah.
what drew me into it was the feeling it gave me, like here, not here. And you know what I'm saying? It's literal, like that.
Interesting.
Like it was like
Yeah,
that's where it
it's
lit
tough
me
for it
up. It was
not
like
to.
this like joy of like experiencing like pharaohs and
Yeah.
the pyramids and shit. It was like this cool aesthetic, thing. Like what aesthetics do to a
They
room.
do look
Kind of like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Why does a room make you feel emotionally different when you walk in versus a room that's in tattered and shambles? You know what I mean? I don't know. But for whatever reason, I remember a kid like in elementary school and they gave us like books on ancient Egypt. I was just like glued to like the pictures and shit. I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah,
fucking
it totally
really
looks
badass.
unique.
Like
Like
I
you can
don't
always
know.
tell.
Yeah.
You can always tell if something is Egyptian. It's totally not really like anything else.
Dude, and
Even like Sumer. There's definitely a distinct style. You can see. They got like the gold in the headdress and like the weird beard thingy. Coming out of there, the false beard or whatever.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh yeah, that's Egyptian. And
Yeah.
it's crazy how long that culture lasted. You kind of forget. Like looking into this, I was like, oh yeah, they were they were around forever,
They've been
dude.
around, dude. Yeah, and
Yeah.
to me, their whole process of burial, for whatever reason, as a kid, was very fascinating. Like that whole idea of like mummifying
Oh,
someone and
right.
putting them in this
Yeah,
room with
mummifying
all these
shit.
like trinkets
Some
and
of
like
that.
sending them off to the afterlife. You know, like that was another thing that drew me into ancient Egyptian culture was their death ritual. Oddly enough, as a kid, like I just thought it was really cool
Yeah.
because I always thought the way we like kind of handle the dead was pretty, I don't know,
Cut and
kind of
dry.
more morbid if that makes
Throw them in the
sense.
fucking dirt.
Yeah, and it's like it's more like sad and this whole thing of like they're gone but whereas like Egyptians is like no, we're hooking this guy for the afterlife. He's got all his gold. We're
Yeah.
fucking sending him off in style. We put him in this golden
We're gonna
box and
put
everyone built him a
in a
fancy
room.
room. Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed
Gave him
like
all
they
his
put a little more thought into it.
brains to
Yeah,
take with him.
yeah.
Gave him a goat. You know.
Right. They wrapped him
What
up
if they're
all
right,
meticulously.
though?
I
You
don't
know?
know. But
Shouldn't we
here's
all kind of get mummified?
that's what I'm saying. Like here's my
just to
question:
hedge your bets, you know?
right? Well, think of the
Like,
motivation
yeah. What if
behind
they're
that.
right? What
Yeah,
if they're right? You know?
that's what I'm saying. Where did the motivation for that
And
come
we
from?
all die. You know, we get thrown in a box in the dirt, and then like all of a sudden you're going on the boat, you know, across the Nile, I think, and then like they weigh your heart and shit, and they're like, all right, you get to go. And they're, where's all your shit, dude?
It's like they
I
didn't
don't know.
bury you with
Just threw
anything.
me in a box, you know.
Yeah, they had some boring ass Catholic priest read some hollow words nobody gave a shit about, and we all went
Yeah.
home. Yeah, and we ate some
Technically,
food.
we should all get mummified, just in
Yeah.
case they're right, because you don't lose anything. Like if you're mummified and you're Christian, like it doesn't matter. You still whatever. You get to go to heaven. But if they're right about it, then
We're fucked.
shit, you're fucked. So you should probably get mummified.
Yeah, we're gonna
There's
be
like
showing up to the gates of the afterlife just totally jabronis, just like empty. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? You didn't bring
Like, where-
jack shit. What are you
where's your
doing?
goats?
You just like kind of
Where's
like
your
BYOB
pottery?
at the afterlife. To like, you got to bring your own luxury items,
Yeah.
dude. Like, what is this? No, like mooching off the other fucking angels, dude, or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man. But where my mind goes with that is like what's fascinating is like, yeah, where did that process come from? The motivation and like who are the first people to like, get together in the sandbox and be like, you know what? There's this process, because mummification was very intricate, from removing the organs to what they
Yeah.
dip the wrap in and to how they preserve the body. Like that's
Yes.
my mind goes like,
How
where
did that develop?
Yes. And what was like the initial? What was it? Just boredom? Where they just sit around in the desert with a lot of fucking time on their hands, going,
can't be.
"Well, we're done
It
with the
can't be.
pyramids. What else? What are we gonna do next? Well, let's invent a mummification. I don't know. Or was there some guiding hand of like to get into ancient aliens? Was there
God.
some sort of?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, was there some sort of external motivation? You know what I mean? Did something spark that in them, or did they purely concoct it from their own devices?
I don't know. That'd be an interesting thing to look into. I didn't look into any of that for this. It was purely like just the pyramid.
Oh yeah, I know.
But now I'm curious. I'm gonna have to look
This
into
is
that.
where
Like,
I
how the
come in.
fuck did
This is
it come
where
up with
this
that,
is
you know?
where I'm.
I didn't even think
This
of
is
that.
my
Like, what
role
the fuck?
here.
How did they think
me
of
and
that?
Spliff's
How did that
role.
come about? They'd stick like a utensil up the nose.
Yeah, dude, they
And
got
they
a whole.
scramble the brain.
Yeah.
And like they remove it through your nose.
Like I said, what was the first time like? Were these dudes just like hanging out over a corpse? Like, all right, Jimmy
Yeah.
Joe, you gonna stick that hook up there and see if you can
just
just
scramble.
start
his
scrambling the
brains.
brain to see what
Like some
happens.
eggs.
And did they go through a few corpses, before they got it right? They just had this like, well, that one fucked up. We split his head
Yeah.
open. I'll try the next one. Only got half the brains of that one. Try the next one. And then finally, oh hey, fuck, dude, Bob, you got it. That's perfect. It's
Yeah.
like great brain removal technique. We're going with
that's-
that. Like let's
That's
make
one of the
that
problems.
our,
Is that this civilization's so old that
Yeah.
like we don't have a lot of written history from the old kingdom, right?
Sure.
Like we have most of the shit that we know about it is from Egyptian scholars or whatever, the priests that would write shit down. But that's from the New Kingdom, which is like 1,000 years later. So like King Tut, Hatshepsut, and all these names that you recognize, Ramses, right? Those are from the New Kingdom. So like the pyramids were already ancient for King Tut, They were over 1,000 years old when King Tut was around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when they kind of started writing shit down. So it's like we can see what they were writing down, but even to them it was kind of speculation, and it's all in hieroglyphics. So even that's kind of like, oh, did you decipher that right? It's
Well,
so
and that was
interesting.
always where my brain went with deciphering. If there's not like an original translator, it's just a fucking guess, no matter who you are, unless there's actually somebody from the culture to be like, yeah, that's to confirm, like
Oh,
that's what that
do you know how
symbol meant.
how
If
they
it's just,
cracked it?
I don't know how. Yeah, is
The
that in the
way they
book?
crack. You ever heard of the Rosetta Stone?
Yeah, isn't that language teaching program? Oh, that you got?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Is this a trick
That
question?
it, it's the computer. Yeah, the computer program. That's how they got it.
Oh.
No, they there was this stone in Egypt, and it had like ancient Greek writing on it, and it had hieroglyphics on it. So they were like, "Well, we know what they're saying here in the Greek, so that's what how they deciphered it." And I think it was Napoleon that found the Rosetta Stone, and then this other French guy is the one that kind of like cracked it, you know. So
But
let me
again, that's
pull
pretty
up
loose.
here.
Okay, you're telling me one rock,
Yeah, one rock.
one
Yeah,
rock cleared it all up. All those
yeah,
thousands of symbols inside the pyramids. Oh, hey guys, turns out this rock just sums that up.
yeah. We
Cool,
got it.
we got it.
Yeah.
I think a
I don't
lot of
know. I
human
don't know
history
enough
is
about it, you know?
like agreed upon assumptions, if that makes sense. I think a lot of what ends up in like
Oh, for sure.
history is when people
For
come
sure.
to the inevitable wall that we all hit with knowledge of anything, where it's just like we don't fucking know. There comes this like agreed upon mass, like we're going with this answer, and we're
Yeah.
all gonna just stick with that, and no more questioning. You know, it's like the Catholic
No more
Church.
questioning.
You know, it's like
They don't
religion.
like
You know,
that.
they
Yeah.
have that out there. We figured this out. You know, we agreed. People that weren't, aren't here now. Thousands of years ago,
Don't
we
rock
all
the
figured
boat.
it out. Yeah, and now no more questioning it. We got the groundwork laid. But fuck that. You know what I mean? Because when you break any of those philosophies apart, they're all full of holes, and they all run into that inevitable, again, wall of it's unknown. I mean, how
You
can you
really
know?
know.
Unless you're
Yeah,
the
and they don't.
dude that carved that shit in the rock, you really don't know what the intention was. It's anyone's guess
Yeah.
is as good as another. No matter how hours they stand there magnifying it and going, whoa, it's still from the perspective of that fat white anthropologist, archaeologist guy staring at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's his
Yeah.
interpretation of what somebody thousands of years ago was doing. Lord knows what in these places. Like their intention is
Yeah.
lost to the ages for sure. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. And I
For
think,
sure.
educated people want to believe they've cracked a code. And so at some point they just come up with saying that, oh, we cracked the code. And here's our
Yeah.
evidence. This rock over here, this stone did it.
Yeah, they
I
and
don't
they don't
know.
like alternative theories, the Egyptologists. And I don't really blame them because there's so much like
Yeah, I'm not
new age
harping.
woo woo kind of shit, and like a lot of people that make pretty bold claims that don't really look into it. Like if you're an archaeologist or an Egyptologist, you know all this shit, and like when people just are confidently like wrong about something, you just be like, God damn it, like more of these people, you know?
Well,
But a lot
because,
of it,
yeah.
at a certain point, there's people that do know all that shit and come up with an alternative theory that might, be legit, and they will not entertain it. Dude, they're like, no, this is a tomb. They made it with the, copper chisels, and that's that, And I'm not buying it, dude. So,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I think it's one of those things that you gotta chalk it up to the human condition that is ever present in every age of human history. There's that effect that like when humans decide something, becomes a paradigm, becomes a law, becomes a way of thought, becomes a formula for life. But it takes, like I said, that agreed upon assumption of kind of a group of people to cement it. But it always starts, yeah, with one fucking fringer wacko who's like, let's think differently, and a few people catch on and it grows. And sometimes
hmm
the ideas and knowledge get squashed out altogether. They burn down the libraries, they get rid of the
yeah,
knowledge, and it goes away.
yeah,
But I think all of human history is an arm wrestle to whose paradigm is going to be, most present, if that makes sense. It's a
yeah. There's
constant
nothing
chess
wrong with
game.
asking questions
No,
and bringing
well,
up
but unless you're trying to keep
theories
a
and
paradigm
shit.
locked down, there is.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit
That's what
later
I'm
too.
saying.
There
What
might
if
be a little bit of a conspiracy going on.
ask our parents from the '60s, man? They'll tell you all about suppression.
Yeah. Hey, how do I share this image though?
You want to share? Oh, we didn't go over this. We get to do some live teaching of Zoom.
Yeah.
This part of
Well,
the video for our
we can
viewers is
edit
a
it out.
bonus. This is a bonus teaching. You get to learn how to screen share Zoom if you didn't already know. See that little green button that says screen
Oh
share?
yeah. Oh my God, that's
The
so
bit or the
easy.
big green
All
one
right,
right in the center. Click that.
please.
Okay, it should give you an option. You don't need sound of any kind, do you? Because you got to make sure to click the little share sound as well.
No, it's just images. Allow Zoom to share your
Okay. Yep.
screen open.
And then, do you have multiple
That's
screens or just one?
just
Oh,
one.
well, that's pretty old school, man. Do one monitor?
All
What's
right, we
wrong with
might
you,
have to
caveman?
edit this out. How do I allow apps below to record contents? What? What? What's going on here? Oh my gosh, I gotta enter my password. This is terrible.
Password for what?
My computer.
Aren't you on it already?
Yeah, I am.
Why do you? Why you gotta enter your password to screen share? This is ridiculous.
No, to allow it to. Zoom will not be able to record the. What?
Oh, Zoom, you cunt. God damn it.
I don't know. This is gonna work. Hold on. Share screen. Desktop one. Share.
Oh, there we go. Hey. Oh, look at that.
Zoom would like to record your computer's screen.
No, deny. Deny.
Deny.
Denied.
Deny until you die.
Denied. What the fuck is that, Zoom? Fuck off.
Ah,
Ah!
here we go.
All
Okay.
right. We see it. We see your timeline. All right, story time. You explain this,
Okay.
and I'm going to learn
Okay.
and smoke this spliff. All right.
All right. So you have
Story
your
time.
early dynastic period, right? So 3150 to 2686 BC, right? So 5,000 years ago would be a good way of thinking about that, right? And then the Old Kingdom, so this first block right here is when King Menes, I think, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. He united Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. So there's constantly kind of these two cultures in Egypt, Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, that they get unified for a while, like you'll see here in the Old Kingdom. And then the next one here, the intermediate period, which is when they split apart, right?
Oh.
And then after that, you have the Middle Kingdom, which was when they got unified again.
Oh, hey.
And then you have the second intermediate part, so they split apart again.
God damn it. What the fuck?
And then the New Kingdom, they get unified again, right? So it's kind of
Make
like
up your mind,
over these.
fuckers. Jesus Christ. I think they're just bored.
Well, you know, it's keep in mind how long this is.
That's
you
what I'm
know?
saying. Grass eventually always becomes greener. I mean, when you're at war, oh, we all want peace. But then you have peace for certain thousands of years. Like, God damn it. Let's go fuck each other up. This is boring.
Well, I think that, I mean, you forget how long it was, you know, and it's
saying,
like
this
these
is-
rising and falling
Yeah.
of these civilizations,
Fucking
right? They gain
shitheads.
power,
Yeah.
everything's good, you know, and then eventually, I don't know, there's like a famine or so. So the end of the Old Kingdom, I think, was a famine, and that weakened them, and they split apart, you know, because it's actually, if you look at Egypt, like geographically, it's a lot of land between upper and lower. It's like way up the Nile to the top, you know, by Giza, right? It's a lot of land. And for that long ago, it would be pretty tough to keep it unified, right? But at any rate, so there was about 30 dynasties over this span. So look at the green block here. So Greco-Roman period, right? That was about the time of Cleopatra. She was the last pharaoh. You know, right about the time of Christ, right? That's the end. That's the far right of the timeline, and it's going back, you know,
It ends
3,000 years
It ends at
before
Christ.
that.
Yeah. Wow.
Ends
Okay.
at Christ. Yeah, I know. And here's the weird thing, right? So, like I said, 30 dynasties. The Old Kingdom here is the 4th to the 8th dynasty, right? It started with Menes, and then I believe it's his son is Sneferu, who built 3 pyramids, allegedly. He built the Bent Pyramid, built the Red Pyramid, and the collapsed pyramid, right? So the official story is that these pyramids were tombs for the pharaohs, right? So in order for them to be tombs, the Egyptologists say well, they must have built them while the pharaoh was alive. Like the pharaoh started the construction and it was completed before they died, for that tomb theory to make sense, right? So they're telling us that Sneferu built 3 pyramids in about 40 years, right? And then his son, Khufu, is the one that built the Great Pyramid. And they say that he built the Great Pyramid in about 25 years, right?
Well, he
So,
personally did not do probably
yes,
one
correct.
ounce of labor.
Yeah.
He may have whipped a
Yeah,
few,
and that's
slaves, but that's about it.
well, that's actually a misconception. They think
Oh.
that there wasn't slaves. They think that it was
Ancient aliens?
no, they definitely don't think that. But
I thought that's maybe
they
that's what was
think they
gonna
were paid.
slip in. Paid? What?
They
No,
think they were paid,
they were contractors
or
from like
yeah,
Iran or something,
yeah,
or from Iraq. You know, they were around at that time.
yeah,
Life in the Middle East.
yeah.
You know, they're like, hey, what's up? Come down, build some pyramids.
Hey, you guys aren't doing anything,
Yeah,
right?
what are you up
You
to?
want to
Just
do a
smoking
super
hookah
fun
all day. Get the fuck
construction
down here. All right.
project? Yeah, yeah. No, they think it was like a labor force of about I think 20,000 workers, and maybe they like families would volunteer their young men to go work on them and get like a tax break or something like that. You know?
Tat.
Yeah.
Some things
But
never
anyways,
change, right?
yeah. So 25 years to build this pyramid, right?
Not too bad.
The Great Pyramid has 2.3 million blocks in it, right? Each weighing about 2.5 tons. Okay. The footprint of the Great Pyramid covers 13 acres. It's 481 feet high. So at the time, it was the tallest structure in the world, right? And it remained as the tallest structure in the world for about almost 4,000 years. I think up until the Eiffel Tower. Or no, the Lincoln Cathedral in England surpassed it, but then its spire collapsed like 100 years later. So just for like 100 years, it was the tallest structure in the world, right? So yeah, 25 years, 2.3 million blocks. So if you just do some quick math, right? Assuming that they worked in shifts around the clock, they would have had to have carved and polished and transported and placed one stone every 5 minutes around the clock for 25 years in order to complete it in time.
How do they know how much manpower that would take? If they
That's
were
how they get the manpower of like 20,000 dudes, you know, working in shifts, and because you would need support, right? You would need a food
Yeah.
constantly. And the big thing is you would need to be repairing all of the tools that you're using to build it, because they're telling us that they built this pyramid using like copper chisels, dolerite pounders, like just a dolerite ball, you know, is how they just smashed granite and like carved it out, you know. So if you're using stuff like that, and granite's a really hard stone, but I'm getting a little, so most of the blocks are limestone, right? Which is pretty easy. And they quarried the limestone near the pyramid, like a couple of football fields away, right? It's from Giza, you know, there's plenty of it. That's not too crazy. They could transport, even if they're like 2.5 tons per limestone block, like you could move that if you had 20,000 dudes, like that's doable. The tough part is the granite that they used, because granite is a very hard rock. It's like a 9 out of 10 on the hardness scale. And they didn't get it from Giza. They got it from the Aswan, modern day Aswan quarry, which is over 500 miles away. And the granite blocks are the largest stones in the Great Pyramid. That's what they used to build the King's Chamber and the roof above the King's Chamber. And each one of those blocks is about 50 tons, between like 40 and 80 tons, each one of those. And there's hundreds of them, right? So that's really the constricting variable, is like, how did you carve those giant things of granite and transport them, right? And if you look it up, they say that they used boats to float them up the Nile, right? And then they just used to get them across the sand. They would use like a wooden sled, and then they pour water in front of the sled, and then obviously you would just have thousands of dudes pulling it with a rope, right? But the boat theory, if you're going to be using boats to transport this stuff, let me find my picture of the only boat that they found.
Oh yeah, go ahead and reshare. I'm sorry, I brought down your timeline. It was
Word.
there. We go. Boat. Oh, cool.
So there's a depiction of one of the boats, right? How many people do you see on that boat? Yeah, baker's dozen, maybe.
4,
You know?
6, 8.
So it's
yeah, about
I don't know, 20 feet long, 30 feet long, you know? Maybe. And then they also found like a less functional is it this one? Oh, it's the same one. Anyways, so the boats that they have evidence for are not that big, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
But
I
if
mean,
you
have they
do,
not found any of these boats?
they haven't. They have one. It's like Khufu's sunboat, I think. That's tiny, and they say, well, this wouldn't be the style of boat that they used to transport the blocks. They think they used like giant barges made out of like reeds, right? But if you do some quick math, so in buoyancy, right, in order for something to float, it needs to displace the same weight in water as the thing that you're carrying, right? So an 80-ton stone, 80 tons is about 160,000 pounds, right? Just for scale, an Escalade weighs 5,600 pounds, right? So the granite block is 160,000 pounds, and Escalade weighs 5,600 pounds. A
Huh.
semi truck weighs about 50,000
I
pounds,
always
right?
wondering what an Escalade
So
weighed.
there you go.
Now I
So
know.
about 3 semi trucks is what is what this granite block would weigh, right? So
So
100.
you're drawing the conclusion it's not possible or very
Well,
unlikely.
it's very unlikely.
Okay,
So 160,000 pounds. That's about 19,200 gallons, right?
sure.
So the whole displacement, the amount of water you would have to displace is about 3,000 cubic feet in order to maintain buoyancy, right? And if you're doing that with a barge made out of reeds, I'd like to see that, And then you need to factor in the size of your canal, in order to displace that much water, right? And then you have to factor in it tilting, and you got to load it perfectly and balance it perfectly, right? And you need to place those blocks every 5 minutes, you know. So,
So ancient aliens.
well, I don't know. I don't know. I personally
Well,
don't
what's the
think it's.
missing link? That's the whole missing link thing you're getting. Like I said, all these things you can use this deductive reasoning to a point to where it hits kind of the absurd limit of like, all right, this
Yes.
rational thinking goes so
Okay.
far, and you do the math, the
Hmm.
numbers just cease to add up, and you're like, okay, so there's a missing link there. They clearly didn't just do it from sheer practical engineering like we would like to think. There's obviously some sort of either extended knowledge they had, maybe more likely. Maybe they had some, technology or some knowledge of, you know, um, calculus and physics and engineering that we just didn't realize they actually had. We considered them primitive, but hey, if they pulled that shit off, I mean, it's the same idea. It's like, look, we built the fucking Eiffel Tower, and you know, uh, all our skyscrapers and things. We figured it out. And the
Yeah.
point is,
Well,
we're
that's a
people.
lot more modern.
Granted,
The
but
whole
I'm
thing
just
is
the point is the human mind was able to solve the problem, and do it with the resources they had at the time, just like we're doing now. And so I'm saying, like, I
yeah.
don't think it's so far out of reach to believe that they had some, I don't know, again, some advanced mathematics or some knowledge or some trick or some
Hmm.
feat of engineering that we're just not seeing. And it's kind of one of those things that's probably right on the table and we're just fucking missing it. You know what I mean? I
Well,
actually don't
okay,
think it's
so
something super crazy from the sky or whatever. I think it's honestly something right under our nose, is some simple little, you know, whatever, fulcrum or
mm,
some crazy thing that upped their productivity that we're just not noticing, you know.
some type of
Or maybe
technology.
it was maybe it was some, you know, some form of intoxicant. You know, maybe they had some form of ancient speed. They were,
They were just
you
on
know,
meth.
or something, right? You know, maybe they had Egypt meth. I don't
Placing a
know.
block every 5 minutes. That's
Yeah, but
meth,
I'm just
dude. You're
saying. I
just
mean, you got to think
gacked out of your
like
mind.
what the motivations were, what the yeah, like what the energetic levels of each person working were. There's a lot of details into the building more than just the blocks. You know, I
Yeah.
know like modern science likes to think on the physical aspects of the pyramid themselves, but they got to think about the labor force around it, the energy, the mood of the time and the day, and the motivations of the fucking people, and the time at hand that they had. That is one thing I will say that makes it
Yes.
somewhat feasible. They had a lot of fucking time on their hands. I mean, think about our
No, I don't know
society.
about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on, dude. I mean, you
Two.
know,
If, all right. So how
survival
many
is
people
always been
do you
paramount for
have?
most of human history. That's like been bar none what consumes most people's time, is just getting themselves fed at the end of the day and not dying from whatever threat. And I get that. People do have that on their plate
Well, they were
always.
constantly waging war too, like fighting
Yeah,
off invaders, the
for
Kushites or
sure.
whatever. Like they're, they had other shit to do, and it's
Yeah.
crazy that they would. What was the population of their kingdom back then? And you're gonna have 20,000 dudes just building a tomb.
Well, but that's
There's
what,
no
but I'm
fucking
saying on
purpose for it.
average though, your average person doesn't have. I mean, sure, yeah, your kings and queens and people waging war had plenty to do, but your average person sitting around the desert did not. And I'm saying most of those people were probably the ones building this shit. You know what I mean?
It
They're
would be kind of cool if
like
you were
what,
able
you
to
know,
be
what
like,
am
"Oh,
I
we're
doing
building this
today? Think about your commoner
dope
of the
thing,"
day. You know, they didn't have
you know?
YouTube, they didn't have podcasts, they didn't have music, they
Yeah,
didn't have
that's true.
they
They
didn't
didn't
have
have any of
sport.
this.
I mean, I'm sure they had some sports or whatever, you know, some form of activity and cards, and I think
Yeah, I don't
chess,
know.
you know, chess has been around forever and shit like that. But I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to put myself in the time and place of, you know, yeah, they had some gaps in their data
They
fill.
certainly,
You know.
we can derive that they had some pretty advanced mathematics because if you were to draw a circle around the base of the pyramid and multiply by pi, you get the height of the pyramid, right? So that would indicate that they did have knowledge of pi when, our history books would say, no, they didn't. Pi was discovered later. But the angles of the sides of the pyramid are like perfect, like how do you determine the height that you're going to build, and they picked a really nice height to make it structurally sound, right? And then the other thing about it is the precision of the pyramid. It is one of the most precisely aligned structures that humans have ever built. It's almost exactly aligned to true north. I think it's off by like 1 minute, I think. So yeah, like 1/60th of a degree to true north. And it's only until like modern times that there's been another structure that was built perfectly aligned. It was like LIGO or like a particle accelerator or something like that,
Oh wow.
And if they did
Coincidence
build it,
maybe?
what's that?
Coincidence maybe it was by accident.
No, it can't be a coincidence. And yeah, and there wasn't necessarily a North Star back then that they could easily line it up with. I think there wasn't back then, because it shifts due to the precession of the equinox, the Earth's wobble, right? So, and then also the accuracy, like each the length of each the base of it, they're all pretty much equal, plus or minus 58 millimeters. So to build something that big and that accurate is fucking bonkers. But for me, the biggest bonkers thing it just to me is like, all right, there's something going on here, is that this civilization was 3,000 years long, right? And you're telling me they built this thing in their infancy. Like, going back to that timeline, it was the second block. It was the Old Kingdom that did this. Why didn't they do it again? Why didn't they keep going? Why didn't they keep building bigger and better shit? You know, the Khufu's dad built 3 of the pyramids, and then he built the Great Pyramid, and then his son built the next one, then his grandson built the third one, and then that's pretty much it, right? Why that doesn't happen? We
well,
don't. It would be like the Pilgrims building the Sears Tower, you
Sure.
know,
Well,
the Empire State Building,
okay.
and then we just don't do it again. You know,
How
that
about
doesn't happen.
How
That's
about
not,
this
you
though?
know,
Well, here's what would make some sort of sense. Because yeah, I know traditionally, everyone thinks of history as this straight fucking line. It's not. I mean, I think history is definitely cyclic, and if there's been already complete phases of human history that have gone through primitive to highly evolved, and I think, as we know from our own
yes,
desire as a culture in a species, always numero uno big kahuna desire is to transcend the planet, go into the cosmos, right? So I think,
mm-hmm.
my theory is like ancient aliens in reverse. I don't think the aliens came here and taught them to build it. I think they figured shit out, evolved, took the fuck off, and then society and human culture has started a new cycle since. But
Hell yeah,
I
dude.
think that's a remnant of a
That's
society,
what I think too.
a society that went through its full arc. You know what I mean? They did a full cycle of human evolution. They went from figuring it out in the
Mm-hmm.
desert. They built their mega structures, and they looked like the pyramid, just like us. We have our mega structures. We got a fucking space station. We got nuclear power plants. We're flexing in our own right. But I think the context and of set and setting are erroneous to the grander like theme that is like replaying, throughout human history.
Cycles.
Exactly.
Right.
Rather than it being this like age 1 all the way up till now, I think that's a bullshit theory. I don't think human history follows a straight, line like that. I think it's
Yeah, like
zigzags, curves,
we have
and
already Homo sapiens have been around for like 300,000 years or something like that. Is when whatever the earliest like fossil record of humans, you know. So if we had essentially the same brain, you know, for a couple 100,000 years, then why would it take us that long to develop civilization and invent technology and all that? You know, it to me, odds are we've already done it, you know.
yeah.
And so there was an advanced civilization, and then the Younger Dryas happened, you know, the Ice Age knocked them down a peg, you know, and they had to start over. And yeah, I think that the pyramids are a relic of that older advanced civilization. So this,
Or they bounced. I mean, because think about you've heard the thing about
oh,
the
maybe,
Mayas.
yeah,
Well, I'm saying
maybe.
the Mayas, they like their whole civilization left without a fucking trace. Their whole
Hmm.
remnants of their society was just left, and there was no evidence of them leaving. There was no track. You know, you think if like thousands of people fled a village, there'd be all kinds of trails and remnants and things you would find, and nothing. They're just gone. And so I'm
Yeah,
saying
maybe they
maybe
took off.
like,
Maybe
well, that's
they
what I'm saying.
became
Maybe
a
the
type
apex
2
of
civilization or
technology.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. The apex of technology is transcendence. We ourselves are
Hmm.
working on that. Come on, that's what Higgs colliding's all about. That's what going to the moon was
The
about.
collider.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's what all of real the
Hmm.
pursuit, the ultimate pursuit of spirituality and science is to solve the conundrum of like how to break free of earth-bound reality. You know what I mean? That's like
Yeah, maybe that's what the you know, UFOs are. Maybe it's not
right.
aliens. Maybe
It's
it's
just
just the
us coming
previous.
back, yeah, like waving, like we figured it out. They're
Yeah,
like
just the
showing back up in
breakaway
their Ferrari,
civilization.
like check it out, we figured these things
Yeah,
out. Brr, we're out.
yeah. Catch up.
Yeah, peace out. We're going down to the other neighborhood. It's cooler. They're having a
Yeah.
block party down, down outside the Milky Way 2, Milky Way
Get in,
B.
loser. We're going to Mars. Yeah. So this
Man.
picture here, these are Kushite pyramids. So I think it's 600 BC is when the Nubians conquered Egypt. And so these are the most recent built pyramids. Notice how small the blocks are, and notice how they look like shit.
Said
Compared to
that,
the Great
yeah,
Pyramid,
yeah.
like this is nothing, you know? They're
That
way
was when they were
smaller.
building like log cabins, That was their log cabin
Well,
phase. I'm saying compared to
but
like
the
our,
point is it's
yeah.
2,000 years later from the Great Pyramid, and the
Okay.
technology is significantly diminished, and
Yeah.
they're not as good
So
at
they've
it, you
arced.
know?
Yeah, they arced. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they knew, all right, this is important, because the ancient civilization, the old gods or whatever, built them. We know it's important, so we're gonna build some too. And they tried. They tried. Look at that. They built a
Yeah,
bunch of them.
exactly. Well, because
But
like I said, maybe the
yeah.
Grand Masters they all went through the portal inside the big pyramids and like Stargate. You remember Stargate, dude? Maybe
Oh
they
fuck yeah, I
maybe they
remember
opened the
Stargate,
fucking
dude.
yeah. Maybe they opened the fucking
Stargate was
Stargate
dope.
and all the King Tuts, all the real wizards left, and that's what I'm saying. That's so. Here's another
Wizards.
thing. Think about this. You witness. You got to look into like hyper literally. Again, the set and setting. Why was one phase this magnificent, glorious phase, and then the next phase that crap shack phase? But I'm just saying,
The crap
right?
shack.
And regardless of the how or the why, it's just like you got to know it is what it is. They're very different energies, you know what I'm saying? Or they're very different like
Mm-hmm.
states of
Mm-hmm.
existence, and you can like just feel that. And so there's some change has occurred, and so the big question is, what is the change? Yeah. And is it something left?
Yes.
Is it something wasn't there? Is it something got
Or
separated? There's a lot of potential answers to
yeah.
that. But I don't know. I kind of
Well,
like the
so
idea that
perhaps
cycles end when one society
figured it out.
here's a funny tie-in
It's
to
a nice,
that. The
it's
Rick
optimistic.
the Rick and Morty episode where he goes into his car back because his car headlights are out and he's like, oh shit, I gotta go in and like talk to
Goes
the
into the other universe that he
ruler.
made.
Well, because he's like, yeah, there's a little
Yeah.
universe in there, and he's like, I gotta go convince them to start working again to power my battery. And when he goes and talks to their leader, they're like, oh well, we figured out what was going on, and so we stopped working and we invented like our own like sub universe to like power ours, so we don't have to work anymore. And he's like, God damn
Yep.
it! So
And it
then they
just
have to
keeps
go,
going all the
yeah,
way
and they have to
down.
keep going like into other because basically, like I said, when a society figures it out or whatever, there comes that moment. All right, what do? We can choose. We can either stay here and keep doing this, like the kind of enslavement thing of being ignorant. I think ignorance is that another tie-in to slavery. Like people are enslaved when they're unaware of like the conditions they're in, basically. When
Okay.
that's kept from somebody. You know what I mean? Anyone can be. You can be like mental slavery, or you can imprison. To use that term more broadly. But I think it's when someone's in a set of conditions they don't fully understand, and so you can almost argue, we're all in a state of, slavery to our reality in that
Hmm.
sense because we don't really understand it. We're held to a state, that we're not sure of the total conditions. But I think maybe there are societies like Egypt or whatever that figured out those conditions, and then therefore it's almost kind of like then the Matrix. Once you understand the rules, you can bend or break them and move on, or transmit around and do shit. You just have more freedom. It's like gaining extra senses or something like that. But I don't think it's
Yeah.
necessarily represented in like scientific um, technology only. I think all the things, religion,
Like it's a spiritual
pyramid.
evolution
Well,
too.
no, I think it's
It
all.
has to
I think
be.
it's all of the output of human societies. You know what I'm saying? Like the Stonehenge, the ley lines. All the mysterious objects around the world that have
Hmm.
been left behind. Machu Picchu, all that shit are all basically that mark, that like stamp of like this little part of human society figured some shit out, and here's our like,
Yeah.
our opus to that.
And
We're doing it right now by putting people in a space station and fighting with Russia and whatever the world's doing to
sure.
flex its muscles right now. We're always
Did you ever
doing
watch
it.
that the Life After People shows in like the late 2000s?
What's
It was
that
just a
called?
show on like History Channel, but like this
Oh,
is what everything would look like if like people just disappeared, you know? And
it'd be a nice
all of this
place.
shit, all of the shit, well, yeah, like nature takes over, right?
Yeah.
All the shit that we make though is gonna disappear in like it fairly quickly, like a couple thousand years. You'd think like an engine block for a car would last. It doesn't, dude. It corrodes because it's an alloy. The only
Yeah.
shit that really doesn't get swallowed up by the planet is stone. You know.
Well, right,
So
but
when they say where's the evidence of this ancient civilization, well, it would have there. The only thing that would be left would be the stone.
hmm
And we have that, and it's pretty incredible. So
yeah, yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
I know. Yeah,
So,
and stones are kind of that ever, like you're saying, that ever present clue of that that stamp of humans doing the same shit we're doing today. Basically, it was prodding that great fucking mystery of how to get the hell out of here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
everyone wants to open the wormhole. I think ancient humans did. We do now, and we do it with like Higgs colliders and our brains, and they did it by
Higgs
building
colliders.
things and sacrificing goats and whatever, praying to the gods. But I think whatever way you get there, I think I don't know. I think for me, it's weird. I think it's one of those catch-22s. I think it comes literally in the belief and understanding that you've pulled it off. It's almost like we were talking about earlier, when someone like truly believes they're right about something. Whenever society can get to the point where they've believed, they've solved the ancient riddle and can get at it, and maybe there's like a catch-22 that it's like a placebo. When you believe it, then it occurs. You know what I mean? They just disappear.
Oh, that's
Like,
interesting.
ping! But to actually work yourself to that feeling of understanding, like, oh, I pulled it out, like I get it now. Maybe if you have that thought, you just vanish. And that's why I'm just saying, maybe that's why none of us have that epiphany. Maybe we're all stumped, and like maybe that's actually like a protection thing. Like being stumped, it literally keeps you present. I've thought about that. Like if you were to have the grand epiphany to understand, I guess I took that away from
Like
ayahuasca.
ramen?
Yeah, well, from ayahuasca, that because coming back from that was such a physical feeling. It would kind of remind me of like that's a place, and if you are there, and it was like to understand another dimension is to literally be in it. You can't understand and be in two places at once, because literally being in a place is understanding it. They're wrapped up into each other. So to like be somewhere else, whether it's a lucid dream and near death experience, you're only there because that's what you're presently understanding, right? And so I think that feeling of not understanding other places is what keeps you held in a place, if that makes sense. It's like a very hyper.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Very
It's like
hyper
it's
literal.
always
Yeah.
super hard to describe when you
Like basically
have a
what
trip, and like
yeah.
what you experience when you're in that trip, coming back here, and you're like trying to describe it to your friend, and you're like, I don't know, there's like colors and shit, but it's like you're trying to
Knowledge,
describe something that you
places,
felt, it's just not possible.
Machine elves, all the things.
Yeah,
But
some
here's the
crazy
way I've
shit.
always thought about it, very simply put. I think what you forget equally impacts your reality as what you are remembering. You know what I mean? And I think your mind is constantly like filtering that. It's letting memories in, or knowledge, if you will. I think those are kind of synonymous in the way I'm using them. But just kind of knowledge of your general surroundings that filters it. And I think, an experience like psychedelics, it lifts that floodgate up temporarily pretty high, and suddenly you get a flood of. A lot of times, I was always the kind of the deeper aspect of a trip is it didn't feel like new shit. It felt like deja vu. It felt like something that it was
I've
being,
been here, I've
even though it was
done
brand new shit
kinda.
at the time, like the place and the thought. But at the end of it, it'd be like, whoa, this actually feels really familiar and like at home. And that sensation was always hard to shake.
Yeah.
Of like, why did that novel experience suddenly turn into something so familiar? And so novelty and familiarity for me were always wrapped up into one, and that's a hard thing to like separate, because things start out as like, oh, it's brand new, but then it reminds you, oh, wait a minute, this actually isn't as new as you thought it was, And so that's what I mean. Like your mind is like blocking memories of things to kind of keep your personality developing in this persona in this way in a particular fashion. Because I think if you remember too much shit about the universe, it disrupts your personal development.
Kind of ruins the game.
It does. It ruins your humanness. Yeah. And so I think your subconscious is good at keeping that at bay. But when you ask for it, you eat a eighth of mushrooms or whatever you do and really knock on the door, it's like, all right, fucker, here you go. Here's a peek, and you come back from that like, whoa, what if and like I said, imagine if that, or even like I know some people who have very, active dreams to where it's like, it's almost something they have to factor into their
Like
life.
lucid dreaming?
Yeah, to where it's like a thing that it's so jarring every night. They kind of have to have almost like counseling for it in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's like something
that
they have to
sounds terrible.
do. Yeah, I mean, like some people's dreams can be that effective. Is my point. It's a real place and phenomena that you can experience. And so I don't know.
They do that on purpose?
No,
Or
most of the people that
just
have
like an
told me about
affliction?
that, it's exactly. There's like I just dream super crazy lucid,
sucks.
and a lot of it's like bizarre and weird and horrible and stuff like that. And it's like, whoa, But like I said, I mean that's just another state in the moment that you have to deal with because that's all you're perceiving, and so your mind is like gated you into that. So I think
maybe that's what the pyramid did. Is you went
Yeah.
in there and you just got your consciousness just got like blasted out in outer space.
Who knows?
I don't know.
But I think
Let's,
it's tied into it. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Or
so
or
here's
the numbers
this.
add up. If they add up, prove me wrong, Jordan. But you were the one that shut down to that. Oh, there you go. There, see, here we go. There's the mechanics
Yeah,
of it.
so I pulled up the cutaway diagram.
Uh
We'll
huh.
talk about what's each kind of component
But
of
yeah,
it, what's in the pyramid, which I never knew. I never knew there was like, there's like a chamber in there or whatever. But the actually what's in the
what? They have a
Great
well
Pyramid,
shaft? No
pretty.
way. Since when is there well shafts?
Yeah, yeah. So the well shaft is just like a very vertical passageway
Hmm.
going from the beginning of the Grand Gallery going down to the
Yeah.
descending
What's
passage almost to where it meets with the subterranean
what's in the
chamber.
subterranean? And what's that little line going out of the subterranean to just off the page?
Oh, it's a pit. It's just a pit. It goes like 40 feet
Oh,
down,
oh,
I
that's a
think.
pit. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a
And
pit. And
what do they toss in there?
they rip out your heart and they say the thing from Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Kalema, and then they throw it down there.
So it's full of hearts.
No, I just made that up. So
Oh, well,
the subterranean chamber is about,
has
it's
anyone
200.
lured a guy down there? Someone had to volunteer for
Oh,
that
that'd be
job.
so scary,
Come on.
dude. I think I have a picture of the subterranean chamber.
Somebody's
One
gone down
sec.
there. Someone's curious to know what's at the bottom. You know?
Oh yeah, I'm sure people. You're not allowed to go down there, but like,
No, somebody has.
can you
Some
see this? Is it sharing this? The
what?
subterranean chamber
Yeah,
picture?
yeah. I'm
Yeah, you can see
looking
it.
at your
Okay,
chamber. Oh
so that's what it
no,
looks
of
like down
just your
there.
subterranean. I'm looking
Yeah,
at the whole
the photo.
pyramid.
Okay, hold on. Let me figure out how to
We gotta.
do stop sharing, and we'll do this. Actually, let me just do desktop.
Yeah, I was gonna say to share your
All right,
screen. There you go. Oh
you can see it
my.
now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like down there in the subterranean chamber, and this is
Creepy.
about 200 feet down. Clearly not as like polished as the other chambers or really anything else in the pyramid.
Well, if they're
Everything in the
just
pyramid's
tossing
pretty
hearts in a
nicely.
hole, you know.
Yeah, but it just looks old, right? It looks old. Um, and so and it's weird. You'll notice that there's those weird fins here and channels, right? So there's not really a good Egyptologist explanation for what the subterranean chamber was. Um,
Hmm.
to me, just from like an engineering perspective, you have these fins that kind of look maybe like channels of for water or something like that. Um, this fenced off portion is that pit that goes down, and there is a theory that it was because there was like underwater rivers, right, um, underneath the Giza plateau. So maybe this was like a well, um, but it looks a lot older, right? So perhaps that already existed. The subterranean chamber might have already existed, and they built the pyramid on top of it. Like maybe it wasn't all constructed at the same time, Maybe they found this ancient well and was like, it's a holy well, or like whatever. It's in the desert, so I mean, finding a water source would be pretty important, So it's like a sacred spot, and that's why they built the pyramid there. There is a theory that the pyramid itself is a ram pump. I haven't looked into that, but it's interesting. You would need like a check valve somewhere in the descending passage, and would need a reservoir column coming up, you know. But that is an interesting theory. Um, so, all right, so we have the descending passageway from the entrance. The descending passageway is once again incredibly precise. It's 20 thousandths of an inch in terms of the error, the variance between the walls. So it's super aligned, which is impressive in itself. Meets the ascending passage, which goes up about, I think, 50 feet, and then it branches off. If you keep going up, you have the Grand Gallery, and then if you go straight, you're going to go to the Queen's Chamber. You notice the gabled ceiling on the Queen's Chamber?
I did notice that. That's a
Those
nice
are
touch.
giant. Those are the giant granite blocks that we were talking about earlier. The biggest, heaviest stones in the pyramid were used for the Queen's Chamber there, the gabled ceiling there, and then the entire King's Chamber. The King's Chamber also has that gabled roof, right? but it's got a bunch of them stacked below it. Okay. Um, so let's talk about the Queen's Chamber. Let me pull up a little diagram, a little picture here of the Queen's Chamber. Here's an actual photo of it. You'll notice there's this weird niche in the wall there. Um,
It's not weird. It looks nice.
well,
I think they did a
so
good job. Whoever carved that, bang up work. Look at that.
yes, they did a very good job.
It's very
Yeah,
aesthetically
in terms of
pleasing.
the
I mean, look
purpose
how
of
it
it,
like extrapolate. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
yeah, the purpose so this is the official Egyptologist explanation is that they built the pyramid, and then the Queen's Chamber was initially going to be where they put the king. That was going to be his tomb, and he changed his mind. And that's why the Queen's Chamber exists.
Oh, really? They weren't even gonna
Yeah.
give her one initially.
Yeah, they
They
said,
only
well,
they
no,
only
he,
gave her
he
that.
built it, and then he changed his mind. And so if we go back to our diagram, you'll see these shafts coming out of the Queen's Chamber, south and
Yeah.
northern shafts.
Shaft.
So they just call those air shafts, right? But what's interesting about those is that
Why do they need
don't,
air? They're dead.
I know. Well, I don't know, man.
For the workers, I
Um,
guess maybe.
I don't know.
What how many
Yeah,
people
well, here's the
died
thing: they
drilling
don't,
the air holes?
they don't even go out. All
They
the way.
don't. Okay, they just.
No, and they don't even go all the way into the Queen's Chamber. They end 5 inches prior to meeting with the Queen's Chamber. So it took a long time for them to even discover it. There was like a crack in one of the things, and then I don't know. They're like, oh, there's a couple of shafts here. So they don't even open all the way to it, right? It's kind of weird, right? And initially, when they went in the Queen's Chamber, they noticed a really weird smell, right? Kind of maybe like I think it was like
Ooh,
ammonia.
that's not good.
A pungent smell, right?
That's the curse.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
it's
the
the
curse.
curse. Yeah, it's always a smell. Yeah, they're fucked.
Well, what's interesting is like I bet all this shit smells really bad, especially if it was a tomb. Can you imagine?
I mean,
You open
yeah.
that room and there's a corpse in there that's been in there for like 1,000 years. Ugh. Like, that
Well,
smells
it was
so good.
well mummified. It was like beef jerky, man.
That's true. Maybe it wouldn't. Yeah.
Preserved well. Yeah.
What if it smelled good?
There's no organs. I mean, they probably had a bunch of floral shit they put in there with it. I imagine
Incense? Oh yeah, maybe.
Rose waters and things of the nature, and I don't know.
So the interesting thing about Queen's Chamber is that it was caked in salt. They noticed salt everywhere, and then in these shafts they noticed gypsum. So gypsum is kind of like a plaster
I thought you
Paris
were about to say
material.
gypsies. I was like,
They found gypsies in
there's
there.
gypsies
Yeah.
in the shafts.
They hopped down and surprise, motherfucker. Yeah, gypsum.
That's
gypsum.
that's whose hearts they throw in the subterranean chamber. Gypsies full
Yeah,
of gypsy
yeah.
hearts.
Get another gypsy from the shaft. Another offering.
Yeah, that's where they
Yeah.
just store gypsies like
They come out
missiles.
like a vending machine.
Yeah, another
They come
gypsy for
rolling out of there.
sacrifice. Your honor, your holiness,
Yeah.
whatever your pharaohness.
Those poor gypsies,
Those
man.
poor gypsies. Sorry,
They're always
gypsies.
getting shit on.
I'm not harping on you. I like gypsy music. It's good stuff.
Oh yeah,
Very
Go
live-
Bordella.
very
That's one of my
live-
favorite bands.
Very lively,
Yeah.
A lot of fiddling.
Okay, so the Grand Gallery. Let's pull up that. So it's the Grand Gallery is 29 feet long, something like that, about 30 feet long.
Ooh.
The walls kind of come in as you go further up, right? So it becomes more constricting, right?
Sorry, just to clarify here, you're describing how this whole thing's a power plant, right? Somehow.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. Here's the Grand Gallery. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
See how
full
it's
screen
kind
it,
of
make it
angled
bigger.
in?
Make it bigger. What are you doing? This is chump
Oh,
shit. This is
okay.
like what grandparents
That's
do
what
when
she
they
said.
show pictures.
Oh,
Can you
I
see
know,
the
for sure.
thumbnail there? I was like, just make it full fucking screen. God
Yeah,
damn it.
come on,
Oh,
Grandpa.
and of course it's
Jesus.
pixelated. Your picture sucks.
Yeah, it does. Sorry.
That's whatever.
I'm such a
I get
boomer.
it.
All right, so there's these notches on the side here. There's 27 notches.
They think that's significant
so
for
that's-
some reason.
What's that?
They think that's significant. 27.
Yeah. Well, maybe not the number, just the notches are there.
That's the
in
age all
general, right?
those musicians died at. There's a link telling
The
you.
27 Club. Was it
it's
27?
It's the notch. It was 27.
It
Yeah.
was.
Jimmy,
That
Janice,
was when like
Kurt,
Jimmy and
yeah, and whoever else. The
Kurt
rest of them.
McGirt. Yeah.
That's from this.
We should do an episode on that.
Dude, it's the
Yeah,
curse
it's
of the
interesting.
tomb. No one's figured this out
Maybe.
yet. I just cracked the
Yeah.
27 mystery, just like
Cracked it, dude.
Rosetta
Yeah.
Stone. Bam.
That's what's killing
I
them
just
all.
Rosetta Stone that
Yeah.
biatch, dude. Fucking cracked it
Yeah.
wide open. 27
Yeah.
curse, but Dan, we need to go there and remedy it somehow, like Fifth Element style. You know what I mean? We need to bring some stone.
What?
We need to bring some stones there and break the curse, so no more musicians ever die again. They all live forever.
Do you remember what the fifth element was?
Love.
It was love. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Not,
It's always love.
What's the actual fifth element? Like
Love.
boron?
No, it's love. Always love.
That's
Unobtainium.
fire,
It's
water,
unobtainium.
and yeah,
Unobtainium.
unobtainium.
Unobtainium and love.
Yeah. So the end of this grand gallery, right? There was this old explorer Nathaniel Davison. He noticed there was a little hole.
Where's that
up
light
there.
coming from? Is that natural light? Do you know? Or
Natural light, what?
that golden light in there? It looks like
Oh
it's,
no, they have lights now. They got-
oh, okay. People put those in there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a little hole up there, and this old explorer Nathaniel Davison noticed it, right? So he got a bunch of ladders and fashioned them together, and he went up there, right? He crawled through this little tiny hole up there, and he found himself just covered in bat shit, right?
Well,
But-
that makes sense. It's a little hole in a pyramid.
Yeah, in a cave, essentially. He crawls through the bat shit towards the
Guano.
king's chamber, and
It's
he
guano,
finds himself...
Jordan.
Guano, yeah.
Guano.
And he's in this chamber above the king's chamber, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to our diagram here. You'll
Can you
notice
full
the
screen
king's
that,
chamber.
bitch? Come on, get that. What is this? I want to see this.
We're back on the diagram.
Can you just click a button and make it full screen? What is this
Uh-oh.
dragging around crap? There's full screen. No, that's gonna rotate it. Come on, Grandpa.
Here you go. Here you go.
All right.
Here you go. There you go.
Good
This is,
enough.
You know,
Good enough. All right.
come on.
All right. I like that.
Big
All right,
enough.
good enough. I want to count the individual ridges on the outside of the pyramid, Jordan. Come on.
You see how these chambers above the king's chamber, the first one kind of lines up with the top of the grand gallery.
That's a thing.
That's where Davison he found this first chamber up here, right? And then an explorer later on, he stuck like a
That's where
piece
the
of,
poop was that he crawled through.
yeah, all up above the grand gallery. There's a bunch
Okay.
of bat poo.
Right.
But he stuck
he
a,
made
uh,
it. He stuck it out to the chamber. Right.
He made it into this chamber, and then another guy came along and he stuck a piece of straw up there, and it like just kept going up. And he's like, "Oh, I think there's more chambers up here, right?"
Where did
So
he get
along
this piece of
comes-
straw?
I don't know. It was in like 1918
Weird.
Dickety too, dude. He was just carrying
Just,
around
just had it,
straw,
just folded out. Whoop, hey, check
you
out
know,
this
he's
straw.
probably chewing on it or some shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's this thing he chews throughout the day.
Yeah. And so he's like, "Oh, there's more chambers up there, right?" And
Weird.
so along comes this other guy, Colonel Howard Weiss.
You got any pictures of
who
these
was-
guys? I want to see Colonel Howard.
Oh yeah, Colonel Howard Weiss. Sure.
Yeah, let's see this dude. I gotta know
Yeah.
who's
for
fucking
sure.
around in the Queen's chamber. Tell me they all.
This guy. So for those of you just listening, I pulled up a picture of
No,
what is
that's
wild
the-
thornberries, right? It looks.
Oh,
look,
you got
alright,
me.
he's a colonel in Her Majesty's army, right? And he's like an
Rick
archaeologist.
Rick
you know.
rolling me, you thornburied me.
Yeah.
got
But hold on,
thornberry.
let me pull up the actual picture.
No, that was great. That was good.
this guy.
Ugh. He's
Like,
the one.
pretty similar,
Look how
right?
sad he is.
I know, dude.
He's
Well,
like, I
let's
had to
talk about
crawl
him for a
through
second.
bad shit in my day job.
Here's the thing.
What's that
So he
thing he's got
uh,
on? That awful turtleneck.
that neck thing. I know that looks.
That's why
so
he's so
uncomfortable.
sad looking. He's just like, fuck this thing. I'm choking.
The super uncomfortable Royal British garb.
Dude, looking at that
Yeah.
guy's eyes, it's.
I know he looks sad.
He looks
Well, here's
sad.
the thing.
What's
those
wrong, buddy?
eyes,
You can tell me.
Man,
What's wrong?
he
Really? She did that
he's-
to you?
he was a shady dude. He bribed his way into Parliament.
Oh, it's
he
guilt.
was
I see
bankrolled.
it now.
He was bankrolled by British nobility, right? So he was a pretty shady dude. He was bankrolled by the crown, right? I think they gave him like £10,000, which back then was like a gazillion dollars, right? Um, so what he did is he used fucking gunpowder to blast his way up that chamber to see what was
Yeah.
above, right? And in his private like diary or whatever, he was writing like, "Oh, it would be so great if I could just find some hieroglyphics or a something that could date like who built the pyramid, right?" And so he blasts his way up, a couple of chambers high. Let me pull up a picture that shows all of these.
Yeah, enough of his
The
mug. I was
names of
getting
these.
lost in those eyes.
Yeah, let's get that picture out of here. Ugh.
Oh, man.
No,
Wow. Oh, they just go
not
right
that one
through
again.
you. He's so sad. I want to know what's going on. He's hiding something. You can tell. He's got some
Well, here's the thing. So he blasts his way up.
story and going on there.
He blasts his way up, and he finds what's called a cartouche, which is like a graffiti, a hieroglyph of Khufu.
You got
right?
any more pictures? What do you doing? Or
Yeah, let me pull up the cartouche.
okay. I don't want to just look at your desktop. But if you don't share and just stop or whatever, or I can do it for you.
Okay.
If you got some
So here's the
pictures,
cartouche.
Oh, yeah.
He finds this, right? How
What?
convenient for him.
It looks
right?
like on the side. It looks like two penguins. If you look at it sideways.
Well, this one is a bird. I know that. Yeah, I think it's a bird and a bird.
Kinda
I
look
forget
like,
what's in the middle.
Marching penguins.
Yeah, so this is the King Khufu's cartouche, meaning like it's like the graffiti of his name or whatever. Keep in mind, there's no other hieroglyphs at all in the Great Pyramid.
But again,
None.
who verifies that? They just come and look at that, and they just come. I mean, look at that. That could literally think about it. The dude who splashed that on the wall, fucking 5,000 years ago, and then this guy's just gonna just show up and go, "Oh, just cartouche, duh." Oh, dude, that could be fucking anything, dude.
I think he already knew that this was Khufu's cartouche, and I think so.
I don't know.
Herodotus, the Greek historian, I believe Herodotus said that he was like, we think Khufu built the pyramid, right? So you have Herodotus saying Khufu built it, and then this guy conveniently finds Khufu's cartouche up there when he was saying, "Oh, I hope I can find something that dates this," right? The date. So he finds this cartouche. He doesn't mention it in his diary for another 3 days. And I mean, you're talking like the find of a lifetime. This is what
Well, he was
immortalized this guy in history.
savoring
He's
it.
the guy that found the Khufu cartouche, and he doesn't mention it in his diary for 3 days.
He was cherishing it.
No, I think he
Yeah.
fucking forged it, man.
Oh,
There's no other hieroglyphics in the pyramid. I think that he wrote it and was like, "Look what I found." This wild thornberries looking dude was like, "Rrr."
hey, hasn't that been the theme of the
Blast
night?
it
When
up
when
with dynamite.
humans run into a conundrum, they just kind of just say, "Well, this is what it is."
Let's blow it up with gunpowder.
Yeah, well, or
and
like I've come.
draw
Basically,
a
it usually
cartouche.
comes down to I've come this far and spent this much money, and I'm not going home empty-handed. Is usually the
Yes.
cause for most of those
Yes.
decisions of like, well, let's just put something in the history books of success. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Nobody wants to write a loser's tale that I went all the way around here, did all this, climbed through bat shit, blasted my way through a brick wall, and that was about it, guys. I'm coming home.
Yeah. 100%, dude.
So yeah, he's
100%.
like,
it
you can picture
immortalized
him.
him.
Yeah, you can picture him the night
It's-
after when he's sitting there getting drunk, thinking like, God, how am I gonna tell people what a shitty like the Beach Boys wrote a good song about it. This is the worst trip I've ever been on.
The Sloop John beat?
Sloop John. At least they were honest.
what?
You know what I mean. But these fuckers, they go on these expeditions and they're like, God, these royal motherfuckers set me up. They paid for it. They're like, I gotta come back with something. And so
Yeah, that's
they
what I
probably
think
just get
happened. I think
hammered.
he forged
He was
it.
probably just sitting in the chamber at night, just drunk alone, like writing his tale.
Like, I'm a failure.
This is gonna be
man.
real good.
I didn't find anything.
And then here's the other thing: who the fuck's gonna go there and fact check this motherfucker? He knows that.
Oh, nobody.
No,
because,
who
dude,
can? No one's gonna
they-
go and crawl through
Well,
bat shit and go do what he did. No one gives a
They
fuck. They're all like, cool, man.
They could do some chemical analysis of the red paint, to
Could, but they
determine
won't.
when. No, they don't. They don't. So
It's like
the
the
main
Angel episode of The Simpsons. Remember when Lisa, she like drops the bone off to the archaeologist, and she's like, "Can you run a test on this, whatever?" And then he comes back, and he was like, "It's inconclusive." And at the very end of the episode, she's
Yeah.
like, "You said it was inconclusive." He was like, "Lisa, I never."
Inconclusive.
No, he was like, "Lisa, I never did the test." And he just turned around and walked away, and she was like, "Oh." And she was like,
Yeah.
she
Well,
was-
I think that they're afraid of what they might find if they do the tests on it.
Yeah.
The main guy who is in charge of all of Giza, his name was Zahi Hawass, and he's like notorious for not letting science proceed, and they want to because there's tunnels all over underneath Giza. He doesn't want to look in them. In recent years, there's the scan pyramid projects, which like scanned the pyramid, and they found a giant void above the Grand Gallery. Right?
void. What? Does
Like
it
there's
mean?
another chamber
Oh.
in there above the Grand Gallery, and it's like, maybe we should, investigate that. Nope,
Powder
not
it?
gonna do that.
No.
Why would you?
Get the dude's nephew, relative out there to powder blast it. Sad
just
Eyes.
blow it up, dude.
I'm sure Sad Eyes has got some lineage that will go there and, blast powder
Let's just
and name
blow
their
it up.
great uncle Sad Eyes. Oh, those eyes are so sad.
What was that?
Poor
Yeah.
guy.
All
What about the
right, let's go
stories?
back to our.
Can we do a whole show on figuring out why that man's eyes were so sad?
You
That'd be
could.
good
There's
one.
a dude that wrote
I'm
a book.
sure.
So shout out to
I'm sure he's
Scott
got a whole
Crichton.
history. I want to figure it out. It's a mystery.
Scott Crichton wrote a whole book. He's the guy that
Is he relating to Michael
found
Crichton?
this dude's. I don't know. He's Scottish. Scott Crichton's Scottish, but he wrote a book called The Great Pyramid Hoax. That's all. He's the guy that found Colonel Weiss's diary in like an obscure London library and went through him, and he's the guy that realized, oh, he didn't even fucking write about it for like 3 days, and he wrote a whole book about it. It's called the Great Pyramid Hoax. So shout out to Scott Crichton. But let's proceed
So
here.
yeah, I
with
was gonna say we haven't mentioned the word power plant. Power.
We're
man.
getting there, man.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. All right, let's talk a little bit about
I might have to
the
finish
King's
this
Chamber.
spliff and get a beverage. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
dude. You want to pause? You want to take a break?
Give me 30 seconds. I just need to go grab a beverage. I'm not even gonna stop it.
All right.
I can edit this part out. Splice here.
Yeah. You like that wild thornberries picture? That's pretty good.
Edit it for me.
Yeah.
Good old.
That's just like when I was
I didn't see it coming.
when I was reading about him, I'm like, this is fucking wild thornberries, dude. He's just like, oh, let's fucking use dynamite to blast our way up. What an asshole. You imagine? Like the most sacred, like coolest, oldest, most impressive fucking thing on the planet, and you're just like blasting your way through it.
Yeah, and who gives these people a right to do that? You know what I mean?
Exactly. He's
Nobody.
not even Egyptian, man.
Yeah.
Ooh.
All right.
Okay. We need to speed through this. Okay.
Splice.
All right. So, yeah, King's Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, here was that other diagram I was looking for. So these are all those chambers. Davison's chamber right there. You see that passageway. That was all the bad shit. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 up there. You notice the names of some of these chambers, like Nelson's chamber, Wellington's chamber, Lady Arbuthnot's chamber.
I'm sure those are the original names, the Egyptians.
Those are Egyptian names.
Yeah.
No. This is the Wild Thornberries dude naming it after like English nobility, like English
What a
elite,
prick.
right?
What is,
yeah.
what is
super
that? Like,
duper,
not
dude.
only do he
terrible.
comes in there and dynamites it, but then he names shit after. Like, fuck you,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
Yeah.
no wonder you
come
look
on.
sad. You know you suck. That's
You know what you did.
I just
You know
solved
what
it.
You did.
That's what it is. That's why he looks so sad. He
The
knows.
guilt.
He knows he's a piece of shit. Oh,
Yeah,
there it
exactly.
is. Boom.
So here's a look inside the king's chamber. Right here is the quote-unquote sarcophagus or coffer. It's made out of granite. They don't know where this granite came from. It's a totally different granite from some of the other surrounding granites. And and the alignment of it is kind of odd. It's like offset, right? Why wouldn't you just put it in the middle? Strange.
There's lots of things.
These
that
are some of
strange
the
about this.
chambers. What's that?
I said there's lots of things that are strange about the pyramids.
Everything is.
Yeah,
Everything's
the whole thing's
strange about it.
pretty odd. Yeah.
Yeah, so the King's Chamber, it's made out of granite, like we said before, the giant granite blocks everywhere. It has those weird chambers above it, right? Another weird aspect is that there's a void around the King's Chamber.
So
Okay?
I was just gonna ask. So all this space around everything, basically the yellow, is that dense or is that open air? Are the pyramids
No,
hollow
so
inside, or is that all like
no,
solid
it's not open
stone?
air.
And then the
It's
King's
limestone.
Chamber and Queen's Chamber, like little openings within a big giant, basically like boulder. It's kind of how it is.
Yeah, the limestone. So if you look at
Like
this
everything
diagram,
above the
you'll see
King's Chamber, that's supposedly like dense. There's no like space in there. That's not like it's not like an open air cathedral or anything. You know what I mean?
So if we go back to here, these giant granite slabs, and these are called the relieving chambers above the King's Chamber. The Egyptologists believe that they added all of this to make sure the King's Chamber wouldn't collapse, to relieve the weight, I guess, to make it less dense, right? Because it's open air in these chambers. To me, it doesn't make much sense because it's the heaviest blocks in the pyramid are right here, so I don't know if that would really necessarily make it lighter above the King's Chamber. It might, I don't know if anybody's done the math on that, but so that's what they say. Because how else do you explain it? There's just these weird small chambers stacked up on top of each other above the King's Chamber, But unless you have an alternate theory, which we do, right? So you'll notice on this one,
power plant, right?
Power plant. Yeah, we're getting there.
I want to see. So how does? I've been looking at this a long time now,
Okay.
Jordan, and I don't understand how a King's Chamber and a Queen's Chamber and a Grand Galley.
We're gonna get there. Yeah, we're gonna get there.
Make power.
So, notice this
it's
void.
The gypsies in the shafts. That's
They're on a
funny.
hamster wheel.
They're like the dudes in the universe in the Rick and Morty thing. They're working away, making
just
power.
stepping on
Got it.
something.
And so they replace them like battery cells. They just pull gypsies out and put in some new ones.
Yeah. So you notice the void around here. So it's quote unquote freestanding, right? And then the structure beneath the King's Chamber here. See how it looks like an egg carton?
What? Where?
This material underneath the granite floor of the King's Chamber. It's kind of like an egg carton, right?
I don't know. Circle it with your mouse. Come on, come on, give me some
this
pointing.
area.
Oh,
See
your
how it
mouse
looks
doesn't
like
show
an egg
up.
carton?
Unfortunately, that sucks.
Okay. Well, you'll notice down
Egg
here the underlying support. See where it says underlying support? Are we even on the right?
Yeah, well, I know. I was gonna say, is this a trick question?
What do you?
I've seen the pyramid and the.
Okay, here.
Yeah.
Let me do it again.
You gotta just share your screen. Don't. Cause I think you're sharing individual pictures.
Yeah, that's what was
Oh
happening.
yeah. I wasn't
Okay, now do you see
definitely
it?
Yeah. Okay. I was like, what the fuck are you
All right.
talking about, dude? I was just looking at
my
the
bad,
pyramid
my
and
bad.
the King's Chamber.
Grandpa. Yeah. So there's a void space around the King's Chamber, right?
Okay.
And these
Wait a minute. All right.
wall-
Let me catch up here. What are we looking at? The floor.
This is the King's Chamber, just a diagram of the King's Chamber. So the darker material here is granite. To the sides here, you see the limestone blocks, and do you see the gap in between the limestone and the granite?
Yeah.
There's a void going all around the King's Chamber, right? And then the floor, the structural support underneath the King's Chamber is like an egg carton. So it in itself has voids, okay? So the theory here is that
What's the big
inside
deal
the-
about a void?
what's that?
I didn't realize voids were a thing. Like, what's
Yeah.
what's so substantial about a void?
There's this guy, Tom Danley, in 1996, who went in and did acoustic
Say Danley?
experiments. Tom Danley.
Danley.
He did acoustic.
That's a name. I've never heard that
experiments.
before. Danley.
You like that?
I've never heard that in my whole life. I didn't know there was such a variation. Danley.
Yeah. Well, that's his last name.
I
dude.
still,
Danley.
I didn't know. I mean, Danley could be any name. It's great. I might take that.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of a weird name.
Danley.
But anyway, so he did acoustic experiments. He noticed the acoustics in the King's chamber. Sounds reverberate and they focus in the King's chamber at 440 hertz, and it produces an F sharp chord. Okay? So, if this was designed to be amplification in terms of like resonance, right, you would want a void around it. And you would want a corrugated structural support underneath it. Okay? In addition to that, you'd have these granite blocks, the granite blocks above it with the relieving chambers, those voids in between. That could work as like tuning forks, right? And they noticed that these ceilings, these granite beams above the King's chamber, the undersides of them were smooth, right? But the tops of them were left just rugged. They didn't sand them down. It was just whatever. So perhaps they filed.
Something
Yeah,
like
exactly like that. Yeah. So he's holding up a foam.
But guess what?
Corrugated.
Well, you know what this is for? It's for soundproofing.
No. Yeah. See, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Like
It's the same idea, though.
Damping
Yeah,
and
same,
resonance and all that fun stuff, right?
That's what it's for. Yeah.
And then so
Egyptians
Chris
invented
Dunn-
soundproofing foam. Cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just use it here at home to dampen the bass.
Yeah. So he notices that it reverberates 440 hertz, produces an F sharp, right? Now we can start to talk about the actual power plant theory, right? So Christopher Dunn, the author, let's go back to our cutaway. Can you see it?
The gypsy shafts. Yep.
Yep. So he believes that the pyramid is a coupled oscillator to the planet. So the planet is constantly vibrating, right? Due to mainly tidal effects, right? So you have the moon rotating,
And
you have waves and all that.
subterranean plates are shifting.
Yeah, your plates are going to be vibrating, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
if you get the pyramid coupled to the Earth, then you're going to be producing a constant frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Queen's chamber, he believes, was essentially like a mixing cauldron where they combined a dilute hydrochloric acid along with zinc chloride. And if you mix those two chemicals, you're going to produce hydrogen, okay? So the hydrogen being, these two, you'd pour one in the south shaft and the other in the northern shaft, right? And that's why they end 5 inches before they meet the Queen's chamber. That's why it's blocked off. So it gradually seeps through the limestone into the Queen's chamber, combines, and creates your hydrogen.
Does
Now, the
the
Grand
salt have
Gallery.
anything to do with that?
Yes.
You said it was
that's
all
why
coated
there's all
in
that salt.
salt.
The hydrochloric acid, when combined with the limestone, is what probably produced the gypsum, right, in the shaft. And then hydrogen with the limestone is what made all that salt caked on everywhere. And then these chemical reactions has made that weird smell that they smelled in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's hydrogen being produced. The hydrogen is going to go up the Grand Gallery. And the Grand Gallery, remember how where there was those 27 notches? He believes that those notches each had a resonators within them. So it's amplifying the sound, the energy, right? And it just gets amplified and amplified as it goes up, right? So you have the hydrogen, it's getting excited, right? Possibly becoming ionized, and then it gets to the King's chamber, and so you see the two shafts on the King's chamber. I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Hold on.
Oh, that's okay.
Beep. You have these two shafts. So this northern shaft, he thinks is a waveguide because it's 8.4 inches high and 4.2 inches wide, which would be a good dimensions for a waveguide. So you have the cosmic background radiation as your input signal, going down the northern shaft, hitting the ionized hydrogen, right? Exciting it through all that resonance, right? And then the output, the southern shaft is the output where you have a concentrated microwaves, a maser, if you will. You know, a laser, right? What does the laser stand for? It's like excited, like a focused. So a laser is like focused light beams, right? A maser is just the same thing, only with microwaves, right? And then so that's what's coming out of the southern shaft, and then he doesn't really he doesn't explain what they do with it from there, right? But they could have some type of weird, I don't know, like a Wardenclyffe Tower kind of thing, receivers elsewhere around Giza that take that energy, to power their whatever technology, right?
The Stargate.
Yeah, or it's a Stargate.
Well, I mean, the power. It's the power to Stargate.
Oh, there you go.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's how the
Stargate
gets its juice. You think how much kilowatts takes to run a Stargate, dude? That thing doesn't just run on fucking thin air.
Probably a couple of gigawatts.
Couple pyramid watts. Pirowatts.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, here's another thing. So remember those shafts that we were talking about, the Queen's Chamber? A dude in the early 90s sent a robot up there, a little tiny robot. He sent it up to, let's see what's
dynamite to robots.
At the end of this.
How we've evolved.
Let's see what's at the end of this door, right? And he sends his robot up there, and he finds this weird block, blocking it off, and there's these two copper cables coming out of it, right? And they're super eroded, right? And I think his name was Rudolf Gantenbrink, and now that that stone is called Gantenbrink's door. But there were these two copper, they look like electrodes coming out of there, and they're corroded, and they just end right there. They drilled a hole through it and put in one of those little tiny cameras to look around. And on the back side of the door, the copper, I'll just call them wires for lack of a better word, they kind of fold in on themselves, So it's like, what could possibly be the purpose of those, unless they were hooked up to I don't know, a level detector, for detecting the levels of the chemicals in the shaft, something like that, right? But that detector probably would have been gone, if it's several thousand years old, it corroded away, Now you just see these two little copper wires sticking out of there, So
yeah, I'm sure those rooms looked very different when they were in active use.
Actually in use, yeah.
I mean, we're just seeing bits and pieces of remnants of what was there. It's hard to piece it all together based on that,
Yeah. So if you want, I don't think I have a picture of that, but it's Gantenbrink's door. If anybody wants to Google it, you can see these little copper.
Gantenbrink? How do you spell that?
Gutenbrink.
Gutenbrink's door. Come through my door.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think that Chris Dunn is on the right track here in terms of a power plant?
Synopsis here. I'm gonna see if I can tie all this together through an egg carton shaped floor. It harnesses the vibrations, the natural vibrations of the earth,
Yes, a coupled oscillator.
So basically the core of its energy is just raw earth stuff. Earth
the natural vibrations of
it's taking the vibration. And has any other society ever harnessed the vibration of earth? Has that ever been done before anywhere else?
No,
I'm just saying, has it though? I'm sure you could. But I'm just saying, is there any other? First of all, that's a good question. Are there any other examples of this anywhere else in the planet of people
Not
taking
in not in practice, but
earth
there have been
vibration.
thesis papers about acoustic engines and
Sure.
yeah, harnessing that natural resonance from the earth, and
So
so
I guess the
you know,
big,
in theory it works. We've never built one, you
yeah,
know.
and then the other question is, is this a power plant just generating power for itself to keep in a loop, or is it like distributing it to like a grid for people to access, like our power plants do, or is this just like,
Yeah, it would be
or is this just powering the happenings of what's going on in the pyramid, i.e., the
no,
Stargate? You know what I mean? If that
no,
makes
it would
sense.
be, I think, wireless. You know, you would send this maser out, and then you would catch it, right? Kind of like remember the Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla? How he had that tower that would like send electricity in the ionosphere, and then you could catch it. You know, like if you had a Tesla tower, and then you
Oh,
just have a light bulb near it, it would light up. You know,
hmm.
probably be something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
send out the maser, maser,
But
and
yeah, well, I
they
wonder
would
what the
receive it.
how people would receive it. I mean, we have telephone wires and all that
Yeah, something
jazz
like that.
and
Yeah,
meter boxes and things, but I mean, no. I mean, you said it was going through the
that would
air.
probably be the easy part.
You
You
said it
know,
was
and
you said it was mazing through the air.
one thing I forgot to mention is inside the king's chamber,
Hmm.
those granite beams above it are all cracked, right? As if some explosion maybe happened, and the walls they
Well, it was
noticed
Sad Eyes
are
did it.
pushed. The walls are pushed out like an inch and a half or something like that. It looks like there was an explosion in the king's chamber
Hmm.
at some point.
The gunpowder's been around, hasn't it? Or explosives. People
Well, it
people have
wouldn't
been blowing shit
push. It
up
would be
for
a
a
massive.
while.
It would have to be a massive explosion to push the walls out. You know, because you're
That's true.
talking so many tons of granite. You know, so but if it was full of hydrogen, it might have popped like the Hindenburg. You know,
Totally. Yeah.
hydrogen's super explosive.
Yeah. The
You know,
desert's hot. Maybe somebody had a
Yeah.
magnifying glass in the wrong place and fried an ant, and the ant on fire set the whole thing ablaze.
I found that picture of that boat.
Which, oh,
This is the boat from the old kingdom that they've found. This is
ooh.
Khufu's sun boat.
Oh, dude, that looks like somebody built that in their backyard and said, "Check out what we found." I bet that Sad Eyes guy built that shit.
Oh yeah, oh maybe.
Look at that!
I
Come
don't know
on,
actually.
that doesn't
Yeah, is
look
this a
like it,
replica or is this an actual thing? But
dude. That's a
bottom line is,
replica.
you think that's carrying any granite
No, I don't think. I
beams?
think some white guy
No,
built
dude.
that and just to get a success story out.
Yeah,
Check out this
yeah,
boat I
probably.
found. Where'd you find that? Don't ask.
Yeah.
Hey,
Let
didn't
me
you
show
tell
you.
me you were building a boat the last 6 months in your backyard? No, never mind.
Yeah. Let
Yeah,
me show you the. This is hilarious, dude.
maybe.
This
I
is
don't know. I could be wrong. I
this
just like to. I like to play the opposite side of these. These. What is that? An ancient blunt?
kind of looks like it. So this is a
Is that?
small bronze chisel.
Oh, looks like a Mr. Hanky.
So they're saying, this is one of the tools, obviously, that they would have been using, according to Egyptologists, on
Fuck
how they
that.
would.
How would they get
Huh?
precision out of that thing? That's a
Exactly,
blunt
exactly. So this
club.
is what this is leading into is the technology. What is this power plant powering, right? So let's take a look at the Ramses statues. This is, in my opinion, actually no. Let's talk about the Serapeum. So
Hmm? The what a William?
the Serapeum,
Who the what a what's a
I believe it's in
what's
Alexandria. Okay,
clarify that word for me, please.
and what's that?
What's a serapeum?
Serapeum, like why is it called the Serapeum? I don't know.
What is a
I'd have to
serapeum?
look that up.
That's a place?
It's an underground tunnel system that contains these massive granite blocks,
Hmm.
right? That are, they're each, I think, about 100 tons. They have a massive lid on them, and the thing about them is that they are incredibly precise. Right? Once again, you're talking these granite, but they're clearly polished, and the flatness is 1/10,000th of an inch, which means they're probably more flat than that. That's just the error of the caliper that you would use to measure it, right? Let me show you some pictures of these boxes. They're very, very impressive.
Boxes. Oh, I thought you were gonna show me porn.
Yeah, no, not that kind of box. Okay, so these large granite boxes. Here's a good picture of them. See how big that is? Friggin' massive. Do you see how the light is reflecting from the guy's flashlight?
Yeah, why is that significant? It's should reflect. Who's that
Well,
guy?
it's granite. It's polished.
Oh, I get
It's
what you
almost
mean.
mirror-like, you know. So
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
polish
so
granite to make it reflect like that is
just
very
gotta
impressive.
whip your
This
slave,
is
man. That's not that hard. Just get a slave and whip them good.
no,
They'll
no,
polish
no,
the
no.
shit out of a
It's got to be
stone.
something else. So
No,
here's the
Okay, well,
inside.
pause right there. What
Yeah,
something else? What else could it be?
some like machining, some
Maybe,
tools. Let me tell you why.
maybe,
Let me tell you why.
maybe. Try this on for size. Sorry, I'm gonna give you.
Okay.
I gotta throw you a curveball here, because we're
Okay.
looking at this dude. Maybe the riddle is because it's always right on the tip, right in front of you. Maybe he did it himself in a past life, and he came back in this life and is rediscovering his own handiwork.
He's like admiring
And
his
that's
own
why he
work.
can't figure it
That'd
out
be
because
cool.
it was actually he himself. Think about why he's drawn to go there and do that. Well, how many people in the world do you see standing in that dark hole shining a light at that rock giving a damn? Not many. But that dude's
I
fascinated.
don't
Look at
know.
the look in his eyes. He's like, dude, check out what somebody
Yeah,
did here. Maybe he's the dude. Maybe that's the link, Jordan.
they're so
Maybe
impressive.
he was the one that went in the Stargate, 1,000 years ago, and he came back around, and then he's like, I gotta go find my fucking handiwork again. I'll know it when I see it. There he is.
Yeah, what?
Look, he's
Maybe
even got a
it's
he's got like a diaper in his hand. He's rubbing it. He's like, look at that, I'm keeping it nice.
yeah. What is that? It's
He's
like
like,
a,
who
like a
scratched my
microfiber.
granite while I was gone? He's like, I was only in the Stargate for a fucking couple hundred years. What the fuck?
So you see these edges inside. This is inside
Dude,
the
that's
box
precision,
in
dude. That's
Serapeum.
that's
Okay,
like
so
fucking
let me
Sistine
tell you
Chapel
how
shit, dude.
these are all perfect right
You
angles.
can't tell me they
Okay.
did it with that turd looking
No, that's
club.
what they tell you. That's what
Yeah, that's fuck
they
that,
want you to
dude.
believe. It's laughable.
It is.
But
It
here's
is.
why
It's
it's
a
laughable.
joke. He knows. Look at his
So
eyes. He knows. He's like,
yeah,
I did this a million years ago.
the flatness once 1/10,007 inch, so perfectly flat. The corners are perfect right angles, meaning that the sides are perfectly parallel with each other. But it's not just that; the bottom and the top are
Yeah,
perfectly parallel as well. So think about how you'd have to do that. You would start with just a big chunk of granite, and you would
dude.
carve it into a box, okay? And then you have to hollow it out perfectly from the inside, right? To make that 90-degree cut on the inside is, you don't have the clearance with your little chisel or your dolerite hammer, and they
Yeah.
just didn't make any errors over. I think there's like 20 of these massive boxes down there.
Well, yeah, it's
It's
one of those things you don't get a redo. Yeah, it's like you gotta get it right
exactly.
the first time. It's very high precision work.
And
Yeah.
they're down in these tunnels. It's like, well, how'd they even get them down there? Like the tunnel's not that
Yeah,
wide.
for
You saw
real.
the clearance of where they're at. Like, there's no room around there.
Yeah, I
How did
know.
they
Like,
chisel the side?
and how would they
You
like?
can't even fit someone in there.
Right, totally. I know to be doing like
Yeah.
that level of precision work and that like a dark like basically like this, but like crank out a
Yeah.
perfect. I know it is very far fetched to think that
It's
human hands still
totally,
because we see the
totally
work of
far-fetched.
humans, dude. I mean, fucking whittling a wooden fucking beaver out of those people that do like wood carved statues, whatever. That shit's fucking hard.
These edges here are sharp enough to cut your finger on.
God damn, yeah, come on. Like, and
And
here's the other thing too. Like, even if somebody say had the patience and the craftsmanship, like how their tool capability, I don't think even possessed the ability to crank out something like that. If they in fact were
Yeah.
using this turd-shaped piece of copper, like,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Well,
How would
hey,
that give you an edge like that? How the hell?
I don't know.
You know, what I mean, how?
You
There's you
but-
can't even pick. Even the most diligent set of hands couldn't pull that off. It is not feasible. It's fucking
Yeah.
weird, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird.
And
Hey, I
like you're
gotta
saying,
pause
and
for a
how
sec,
did
but
the initial material even get down there, and where did it come from, and where did they lug it from? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
I gotta pause for a sec.
you got a kid busting in.
Yeah. That was
Oh.
pretty abrupt.
You'd be surprised, brother.
Yeah, it kind of is your thing, huh?
I'm a wizard. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't even matter. I mean, yeah. Hi, welcome back. I ate a whole bag
Yeah.
of gold. I ate a
So
whole bag of goldfish while you were gone.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
So we see this precision, absolute flatness, right angles, right?
Hmm?
I don't think you can do that with hand tools, with a copper chisel and dollrite balls, you know? And that's not the only precision things that we see in Egypt. They have this thing, the schist disc.
Hmm.
So they say that this thing is perhaps a vase or uh, an incense holder, I think is what they say it is. To me, that looks like a piece of a machine, you know? And this is made out of stone, by the way. Like it's carved out of stone, right?
Yeah, it looks like something fabricated and modern. You know.
And something for a purpose, too,
Well,
you know?
obviously, yeah. I mean, somebody didn't just do that because it was fun. Maybe that was just a good time making
And
that.
that's a common theme is that these artifacts from the Old Kingdom, there's a bunch of stone jars and vases and whatnot that are, you know, incredibly precise, polished, smooth, and thin. You know, they have these vases from the Old Kingdom that are like, you know, a half an inch thick and it's carved out of stone. So, you know, it looks like it was made on a lathe, you know? So why were they able to do all these amazing things that long ago and then just suddenly stopped, you know?
These are big questions, Jordan. You're asking big questions. I'm
And
not sure you're prepared for the answers.
so the Serapeum boxes, they have hieroglyphs on them, right? Take a look at these hieroglyphs.
It's just stuff.
Take a look at the lines on them. Remember how we were saying
Yeah.
how sharp that edge
Yeah.
on the Serapeum box is? Look at these lines on the
Yeah, it looks like it was
hieroglyphics.
done with something that wasn't obviously, like when
It
people
looks
like
like shit.
chisel something and it's like a
Yeah,
lot of
this
motion,
looks like it was done with a chisel,
Well,
right?
well, it looks like it was a one pass, is what I'm saying. Like if you're doing it purely by hand, you're gonna see evidence of like repeated chiseling. That doesn't have that. That's like literally like it looks like each one of those lines was done in a single stroke.
Well, but look, so I think that the Serapeum box is old, and then they came along later, and then did these hieroglyphs on it because like none of the
Yeah.
hieroglyphics or depictions on these nice, pristine, precision artifacts are polished. So they polished all of the granite, you know, but then they never went through and polished the hieroglyphics. And if you can make these precise angles on the box, right? Why can't you get this line straight on your hieroglyphics? See how it kind of comes
A
up
little
over
bit.
here and
It's
it's, you
hey,
know,
you're
squiggly,
oh, I think
you
they did
know?
pretty good.
I don't know,
Hating
I
on
kinda
that.
lose your
Good job. That's like
Okay,
seeing kids finger
last,
painting in class and be like, God damn it, Timmy, that finger painting sucks. You gotta
yeah,
be like,
it doesn't
hey
look
man, you
as
did your
good.
best. You tried. They
Okay,
did a good
last couple
job.
things
Well, they did a
in
good job.
terms of precision and evidence of machining, right? Let's look at the Ramses statues at Luxor. Okay.
Oh, the Luxor Hotel?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
So these are massive granite statues.
So what
You
does the
can just
math
Google
mean? I know you're throwing all
Ramses
these
II.
numbers at me, all this math. Well, I mean, what is it? What is that?
Okay.
What I mean,
So,
is that just the language of these
well,
people that are investing? I mean, why do they have to sum all this stuff up with
no,
math?
this is evidence of machining and
Yeah,
you know,
okay, I get that. But at the same
using
time,
instruments,
it looks
right?
just
So
obvious by looking at it, though. I mean,
exactly, but you
yeah,
know, so
math
what
helps.
Christopher Dunn
Amen.
is saying is like he noticed the perfect symmetry with these Ramses statues, the face of Ramses here.
Mm-hmm.
And he's noticing like if you draw this circle here of like the eye socket it's perfect to the circle that's over here. The
Yeah.
diameters of these circles are equal, right?
Yeah, they put some
And
thought
then
into it. It's a giant wooden monolith. Of
right,
course
but
they
it's
thought about
impossible to
that.
do it by hand because you'd have human error. You couldn't
You-
make it perfect and then duplicate it. I think there's like 5 of these Ramsey statues, something like that.
I don't
Each one of
know.
them is perfect.
I think it's all
So
in
he's
like
like, it
the
looks.
slave whipping technique. You know what I mean? I think that was the real key. Once they had the whipping
It's
technique
all in the
just right, it was
wrist.
all in the way they
Yeah,
whipped. If they could whip the
yeah.
slave just right, they would crank out perfect symmetry. If they whipped him wrong,
hmm
it looked like
Yeah,
shit.
but once again, this is granite, super hard stone. It's polished
Yeah.
and it's totally symmetrical and perfect, right? So, evidence that it was probably a machine that did this,
But what
you
kind of a
know, and
machine, Jordan? What kind of a machine?
like a giant lathe or some type of
Lathe.
a lathe or like a big wheel with
Man, when
the
are you just gonna fess up?
diamond
I
tips.
know what you want to say. It's on the tip of your tongue. The whole. I know you just want to break down
What?
and
They have a wizard
admit it's
wand?
ancient aliens, dude. You know
No, I
it.
don't think
You
that.
do.
I
You
don't think
do.
it
I can see
is.
it in your eyes.
Because here's the thing.
It's
You
the
always
only
hear
thing that
like when
makes
I was
sense. Nothing else. It wasn't human hands. Math didn't build it. Some dude with sad eyes couldn't pull it off. I mean, dude, it's ancient aliens. Come on.
No, I don't think it was ancient
Dude, come
aliens.
on.
So here's the thing.
The
We
circles
could
prove it.
be.
Look,
No,
green, red, purple, and blue circles. That means ancient aliens. That's what I.
so here's
That's
here's
what
the
I
other.
read into that.
I'm pulling up a side profile of
I see
the
that.
Ramsey
Yeah.
statue. So like I said, the looking at it straight on, cut it in half, and it's perfectly symmetrical. The right side of the left side. It's also perfectly symmetrical going if you're looking at the side profile in terms of the depth, right? So it's not just an XY axis; it's also the Z axis that's totally symmetrical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're throwing a whole other axis in there. That's incredibly difficult to do if you're just using hand tools. To me,
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
you
even
can
think that's
rule it out, man. I mean, yeah.
yeah, I think you can rule out hand tools. You know, it's definitely some sort of machining, and it was they were all done by the same machine. You know, by some advanced older civilization. Or, you know, another thing is that maybe some technology survived from the
Maybe they.
ancient civilization, and then they found that technology and were able to like fire up some machine, you know, and they used it for these. And if we had some super think of our like confidentiality, like state secrets kind of thing, you know,
Oh, there's plenty of
like
those.
you would keep it secret, right? Like you know, if we reverse
Yeah, well, like I said,
engineered a
humans are always
UFO, like
trying
we're not
to.
going to tell people about it. We're going to hide
Yeah.
that technology.
Well,
So maybe back then they found some, you know, machine that could do this shit, and they just kept it really secret, you know.
yeah,
So maybe it was the
human.
ancient Egyptians that did it, the dynastic Egyptians. Then maybe they did make these in the Old Kingdom, but they had some machine that was able to do so. The only hill that I'm dying on with this shit is that it wasn't made with copper chisels. You know, I can say that. I'm really certain that it wasn't made with copper chisels. You know.
Maybe they had some ancient form of a sandblaster. They certainly had a lot of sand to work with.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
maybe.
that's how they got all that
I
smooth.
don't
Maybe
know
they
if that
just
would do it though. Granite's
man,
pretty hard.
that's
Granite's
true.
pretty tough. It's just the thing that makes me sad is like
Sad.
the Egyptologists and you know like we were talking about Zahi
Yeah,
Hawass.
sad eyes.
They
Poor man.
don't let the science proceed. They don't want to look underneath the Sphinx paw for the hidden chambers. You know, like they won't let people explore that void above the grand gallery. You know, it's just a bummer. It's like maybe because they know. So one of the chapters, the first chapter in this book by Christopher Dunn, talked about secret digging and you know kind of a conspiracy. So that remember the Tom Danley guy that I was talking about who did the acoustic studies.
Stanley. Yeah, I
Danley,
still remember
he
Danley.
was like, "Hey, there's digging going on because he noticed these burlap sacks full of
Burlap.
chips. Yeah, yeah, and they're
Burlap's
full of
nice.
chips. So he's like, somebody's like tunneling, you know. And Zahi Hawass would like close down the pyramid for weeks for quote unquote cleaning, you know.
Oh, that old
And it's
scam.
like, Yeah, it's like, are
Don't come in
they
here.
tunneling?
We're cleaning the
We're
place.
cleaning, dude. Yeah, so are
We
they
got a mop
are
and a
they
broom
at
in
night,
here. Yeah,
like
right.
tunneling into that void and like
Maybe they were.
taking away all the
Maybe
high
they were.
tech shit that's in there, you know?
Maybe it was Brokeback Pyramid. Maybe they were. Maybe it was their love
Just having a
chambers.
good time. He was
Yeah,
Airbnb
maybe
in
they
it.
were. Maybe they're just getting drunk and sucking each other off.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's just like
Yeah, you didn't like that
we
theory.
need
I mean, you gotta think about the reality of what humans are really up to. I mean, come on, you're in a dark chamber with somebody at night, alone, and you're bored, and you're like, man, we gotta wake up and clean this place tomorrow. Like, we better at least fucking bust some nuts in here.
yeah, that would be a hell of a first date, dude.
But hey,
If you're the head
you just
Egyptologist, like
you
you
can't
can
take the human
take her into the
element out
king's
of
chamber.
anything humans do. Anthropologist, pharaoh, what the
Yeah.
fuck ever. It's all got the magic touch of a human shithead behind it. We can't forget this. It's an eating, drinking, shitting,
Yeah.
pissing, dreaming, farting, laughing, crying
Um,
person with full of
Hawass
fallacies and wants and needs.
Hawass was accused allegedly, he was accused of selling artifacts, to really rich people.
That's what I'm saying. And
And
there it is. There's the human element. So, I can make a buck
and
off this.
when you watch interviews with, he's just he's not open to alternate theories or anything.
No, because it shuts his
like that.
business
He
down.
won't hear it.
Yeah, because it's like if other people come in here,
I think it would make his business even great if he came out and was like, I don't know,
He
man.
just
Like,
wanted
I don't know what's
full
going on. There's some weird
control.
shit going on here.
yeah, he just needed full control of theories and the physical pyramid and
Yeah,
the
I think
chambers.
they're just too proud.
That's what I'm saying. And they
Yeah.
figure it starts.
I
It starts with
hope
the top down. If they can constrain the ideas, they can constrain the physical space. If that makes sense, you know what I
I
mean?
hope that it's not like a conspiracy where he's controlled by wealthy elite that know the answers to this shit, and they put
Dude,
him
yes,
into
of
power,
course.
and he's like, controlled, and they're like, dude, you better not let people dig. You better not let people into that chamber or whatever.
Dude, one
That would be a fucking bummer, huh?
one quote I always love. I forget who said it, but it was basically everything ever written into a book by a man is misinformation. Every word of it
Yeah.
and every book is misinformation in the sense that it all evades the grand point of what is really fucking going on, and that's what is really pertinent, or pertinent to all of us. We all really want to know, yeah, that big grand key in the sky of like, what is the access code to understanding, how we materialize, what happens when we dematerialize, all those questions. And I think when you're talking about what's going on inside of a pyramid, what their motivations were, I think the one thing I give to all phases of human history is everyone's been trying to crack that nut. And I think many have. And I think that's the result of when they disappear is they crack the nut. It's this glorious answer to the universe, and they use that knowledge to dip the fuck out because like I said, we all know from being on this rock, nobody's aiming to like stay here. No one's like, this is the spot in the universe. Let's just make this the intergalactic conjunction point of all things. Like, fuck no. Everyone knows this is like pretty basic point in the sky, a pale blue dot of just kind of rudimentary physicality that most people are kind of bummed about. You know what I mean? So I think again that concept of transcendence being the ultimate goal of technology, religion, philosophy, all the arts, everything is aimed to basically transcend you into some other version of reality, whether that's off the planet, internal,
metaverse?
yeah, the metaverse, death, whatever. But the point is, it's just not wanting to stay stuck in your current state of existence. Let's put it that way. Like nobody wants that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
Yeah.
that's what you think the pyramid was then? Some type of consciousness
Yeah, well, I think it's like
resonator
anything else. Like
thing,
I think,
you
like I
know?
said, I said it earlier. It's like their Higgs
Could be.
collider. It's their attempt
Yeah.
to crack the nut of reality. Whether we do it through a
Yeah.
scientific lens or religious lens or a pyramid building lens, I think the motivation hasn't changed one iota in human history.
Yeah,
You know?
I think that like I said, the only hill I'll die on here is it wasn't made with copper chisels.
Yeah,
The
well,
other one, the
that's
the
fine.
other one is
See, I'm not so
those
much about
aren't
like how they
attuned.
pulled it off. I'm more about like the why. I want to know the motivation.
Exactly. And I know
I
it's
didn't really
not
give a fuck
attuned.
about
There's no way it's
the
attuned, you know?
means. I want to know what the ends were and what the intentions behind those ends were. The means to
Yeah.
me are kind of interesting, whether they used a
Yeah, me
tool
too.
or if they jacked off and the fucking sphinx shot out of their dick. I don't give a
Hmm.
fuck, dude. Like whatever. They showed up. We know that much.
Yeah.
We can all agree upon that.
They are there.
They're here.
The pyramids
They
exist.
made
Yeah.
it through some form of
They do
manifestation
exist.
process to become physical form. We can all give them that. And good job, Egyptians. You
Oh, it's the
fucking
greatest
yeah,
shit. It's
dude.
like it's a fucking
Yeah,
magic
what a thing to
trick,
pull
you
out of
know?
your
They
ass,
built
and to
it
leave.
4,000 years ago.
Yeah, successive like cultures just
5,000
stumped
years
for
ago.
like thousands of years. People would come in. I mean, wonder if the
Yeah, I
Egyptians were
don't
proud
fucking
about that.
know.
They're like, man, people are gonna be walking up on this thing for a long time, going, what the fuck?
It's a magic trick, dude. They pulled off a magic trick.
Or maybe
you
to
know?
them it was just like as mundane as like our Eiffel, as our Sears Tower. Maybe to them that was where they went to. Maybe it was an office building. Maybe they couldn't
Oh, I
even.
hope so.
Maybe they didn't think anything special of it. They're just like, what? People think this
Like,
is
what? You're talking about
yeah.
the pyramid?
Yeah,
Like,
they're like,
dude,
that was
I've
made
been
of a
working there for
bunch of
30 years,
rocks.
you know?
Yeah, it's like
It's a big steam whistle that
you
clocks
guys-
us into work every day.
you guys got a space station. It's like you focus on that. You gotta think.
Yeah.
You got shit in the sky. I mean, our thing is made out of rock. Just because it was pointy doesn't mean it.
Yeah.
It was extra evolved or nothing. I
I
don't
just
know.
want to know though, man. I want to know so bad, and like, I don't know, maybe if we could like get some billionaire to buy him or something.
Okay, well,
Maybe
so here's one thing I
Elon
was
will buy
gonna
it
bring.
or something. You
Bring
know?
up too, and I think it's interesting because you're saying, it's how old, how many thousands of years. Here's what's interesting to me. Okay, check this out. Wicka, wicka. Like most oral traditions and like traditional society, like I said, like local Coast Salish, Duwamish, Swinomish tribes around here have existed for 10,000 years. Well, they have like artifacts and they have writings and they have teachings and stories and songs that literally existed from that time that have parlayed themselves into modern times. I'm curious why there isn't more like Egyptian relatives that like have like diaries of people who worked on the pyramid, or there's some sort of this is Uncle Bob,
Yeah.
great Uncle Bob's hand tool that he used to work on the pyramid. Like how now we have
Mm-hmm.
baskets and things that like are left over from that era of people living in those times. I wonder why the Egyptians didn't leave much more than that, other than like faint
Well,
hieroglyphs
they got
and some stones
yeah.
and some shit. I'm just saying, why isn't there more like direct and
They
more
got
and more
conquered
like
a bunch.
stories and things? You know what I mean? Like, why aren't there more like
Yeah.
just relatives that know the stories of their ancient Egyptian ancestors and like, oh, this has been passed down and we know what happened. Like here's an example of that. Where I'm going with that. So like for instance, all the history I heard in high school, not a fucking word of it came out of the mouth of Chief Seattle's great grandson when he gave a
yeah.
history of the Alki Point and the Seattle area from his people's perspective. So none of that cross translated into our cultural. What
No,
we
it
were
was just written by white dudes.
Exactly. So, like, where is that? And where do you find those people that actually know and have kept the tales alive and have the accurate version of what played out? Because what this man described about, the history of Seattle, like I said, none of these details were ever taught in white education. So, what the fuck? Who's getting to tell
There's
the
some
story?
local Egyptians there that like give tours and they talk about that, and they'll I present that alternate theory to things.
I'm
and
sure.
talk
I'm
about
sure it's out
how,
there. It's more grassroots. It's not the stuff you read
and
on the
yeah,
internet.
it's the problem is the old king. It's so fucking old. There's not much writing from the old kingdom. It's all just like
There's
the
gotta
new
be.
kingdom talking about it back then, and then
Well,
we
think about this. They're
interpreted it a
building
certain way.
pyramids. They didn't
And
keep records of some kind. What the fuck, dude? If they're smart enough to
Yeah.
build a pyramid power plant, you think they would have some sort of record keeping?
Well, maybe they did, and then the sad eyes dude fucking found it, and
Burned it,
he gave it to the Queen of England or the King of England,
and they
and they have it
burned it.
locked up somewhere, or it's down beneath the Vatican.
They used it for toilet
You know?
paper, probably. Like no
Think
one's getting
about-
this.
Think about all the grave robbers,
Yeah,
these
exactly.
shady archaeologists back in the day, of colonial. There were French colonial guys, British, and Egypt itself was conquered by the Ottomans, So it's just, they keep getting conquered and then it gets raided and plundered. The libraries get plundered.
Well, and if
the
Indiana
Greeks,
Jones
the
taught us
Romans,
anything, the Nazis love to
you know?
plunder.
Yeah, there you go. Even and Napoleon, he spent the night in the king's chamber, right?
Really?
And
That's
yeah,
a
he did.
thing?
And
I've never heard that. That's a
so
story,
did
huh?
so did Aleister Crowley.
At the same
His full
time?
name. Like, no, no, no. No.
Somehow they're
And
they're many generations apart. But really, I didn't know that. Where'd you? Oh, so
yeah.
is that like a thing? Like they'll allow certain high-ranking people to
Well,
spend the
back in
night,
the
and
day,
when
I
they come
mean,
out, are they
you
like?
could
Do
slip
they?
the dude $100 and be like, just leave me in
But I
here.
wonder what they get out of it. Do they come out feeling like I am now in the royal family because I've slept in the chamber? I wonder what the dream time is like. Or I wonder if he just kind of wakes up and was like, well, that was boring. Like, get me the fuck out of here. Like, it's just
Well,
a stone
Crowley,
room. I bet Crowley fucked some shit up in there. I bet he brought some, weird
I
ass shit
think
in there.
that's where he talked to that interdimensional lamb,
Oh,
right?
okay, I believe it.
I mean, we have to do a whole episode on Crowley, but yeah, he
A
communicated with
whole
like
episode.
some being, and
Ooh. That
he
could be that
drew
could be
it,
our
right?
Halloween special. How about that? We'll do a Halloween special
All
on
right, yeah, we do need to do a
Crowley
Halloween
and the
special.
dark arts.
You want to do the Halloween
The
special on
dark.
Crowley?
Well,
That'd
and
be a
kind
good
of
one.
his
That's pretty spooky.
his fuckery,
Either
that
that or
realm,
like just
just the
the
occult.
history of
Yeah.
Halloween.
Well, and just like the occult and
Yeah.
whatever
Okay, that sounds
dark
good.
weirdo shit.
Yeah.
But
All right.
well,
Got
hey,
anything else on the pyramid? What do you think? Closing thoughts?
pyramid. No, I got Well, I'll set up for next time. I guess this is a good time to set up for next week. We're gonna do the sound podcast. I'm gonna save my tidbits for the next
Oh, you want
next
to do it on
episode.
sound? All right.
You will remember we were talking about that. The sound
Yeah, that's a good
creations
tie-in.
and the
That's a good tie-in.
yeah, basically the origin sound. But hey, a lot of it's gonna be like radio astronomy and the foundations of origins of all kinds of sounds. But it's not gonna be too extravagant.
That's
Other than
interesting.
basically the main point to it is I actually want to play some of these recordings from deep space and just to kind of shoot the shit on what you think could possibly be making these sounds.
I love that shit,
Yeah,
dude.
it's kind of one of those things. It's like, well,
Deep space sounds.
yeah, well,
like
and everything's got an
a
origin.
couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
or months ago, they were like, "This is what a black hole sounds like," and you can play it.
Oh, they got
It's
black
so
hole
cool.
sound now. That's cool. I gotta check that
I
out.
guess I don't know how they do that shit. They just
But-
point something at it and record it. I don't know.
That's
Radio waves.
Yeah, they have a very special, big satellite things that record sound only or whatever, radio satellites.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's just one little part of next week. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. As always, yim yamming, kind of go here.
Yeah,
and there,
Yim Yam.
meandering.
Thanks
But
everybody
I
for
still,
listening.
well, hold on. I still haven't gotten your ultimate. I've been waiting for this build up to like what
Oh,
you really think.
What I think?
What? Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. You
I-
play
okay,
both
so I-
sides well. You're like, could we this, could we that? I mean, you gotta have a personal opinion about this.
I subscribe to an ancient civilization created
Oh,
this.
Ancient
that
aliens, maybe.
No, I don't think. It
I
was
thought that's
ancient
where you're
ones.
going.
I think it was an ancient civilization that globally, was very advanced. That's why you see pyramids and megalithic structures and all other parts of the
Yeah,
world.
they're not just in
Machu Picchu
Egypt.
and all that.
Yeah,
But clearly, that knowledge, and there's like you can look at the walls in Machu Picchu or Sacsayhuaman, and the way they built it looks a lot like Egypt, where it's like these interlocking blocks that are obscure. They're not all the same size, and it's like, why would you do that? Why would you make them so oblong and have these weird ridges in it, to link together? It just seems like it would be more difficult. Why don't you just pump them all out the same size? So I think there was some knowledge that this global civilization had, and they got really advanced, and then they got some type of cataclysm, the Younger Dryas, and then some of them survived. And
But you don't think it could have
that
been
knowledge?
a willful exit? You think it had to be you think it had to be against their will that they got wiped out? You think, like I said, you don't.
Maybe it's both.
Think
it could
that,
be both.
Or I guess
Maybe they left. Yeah.
Do you agree
maybe.
with that idea that pretty much all societies are trying to figure out a way to like move on from their immediate surroundings?
You ever heard of the Black Knight satellite?
No, sounds like a
Okay,
metal band.
We'll have to look into that because that might have been.
Satellite.
Yeah, it sounds like a band name, huh?
So,
But that might be a satellite from this previous advanced civilization that's up
Okay.
there.
Oh, really? They think it was made out of like sandstone or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they know what it's made out of because they try to get close to it
It's
and then
got
it like
gypsies
flies
and
away or
gypsies
whatever.
inside.
It's got
Hey,
like,
let us out
yeah.
of here. We live here thousands of years
What
power
is
in this
that? It's like
sandstone
those.
satellite.
Was it General
God
Zod
damn it,
and Superman?
gypsies.
Like in that cube at the end of Superman 4. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think the advanced global civilization, I don't know, either they got wiped out or they left, and then either the pyramids were left over from that civilization, and then the dynastic Egyptians found it and maybe repaired it. They worked on it. Like we know the Egyptians worked on stone, right? Like,
Yeah.
we know that. We have their tools and all that, so they clearly worked on it. So maybe they just kind of repaired it and did a little bit of work on it. But they didn't really know what it was used for.
Well, think
And
about
that's my thing. I don't really think that the specifics of Christopher Dunn's power plant. I don't really think that, what are the odds that he got it right?
I'll admit
agree
that
with-
seems a little far fetched because the big question is like what if he could tell me what it's powering, I'd be more into it. But it just seems like
Well-
why would they be harnessing the Earth vibrational hum to just because they could? I mean, there has to be some attachment to it, like an intention as to why or what they powered or what they
powered
gained.
those saws and machines that carved the statues, dude. They're just like, let's make some badass
Okay,
statues.
well, there
so
you
we need a
go.
power
Okay,
plant.
all right. Well, how did they hook it up? Well, what kind of plug did they use? Was it a universal or was it a
No
European?
plugs. No plugs. It's wireless, bro.
Oh, that's right. It's the mazer.
The
It's
mazer
just
comes
mazers.
out and it powers your saws.
So
and
it's just
shit.
basically just
But-
like Putin out the side of the pyramid, this mazer field, and
Yeah.
anyone like comes in. That's kind of a cool technology. And you come within the field, and your tool just starts to
yeah,
hum.
yeah. It's like the pylons in StarCraft.
Yeah, okay. And your
Yeah.
tools just basically
But,
vibrate, and that's why they work. They just shake, and then they're good.
Yeah.
Instead of
Well,
a
there's
reciprocal
evidence, yeah.
saw, it's a vibrating saw.
So one of the things I forgot to show you was core drill number 7. So it's a drilled granite thing. Like they drilled into it and removed a core from granite, right?
Oh,
If
yeah.
you
Well,
look at
that
the
definitely
line-
requires a tool. That's no question there.
It's obvious that it's drilled. That's not even like
Yeah.
up for debate. It was drilled, right?
Yeah.
They just think it was like a hand drill thing. But when you look at it, the threads on it, you can see it penetrates 1/10 of an inch deep per revolution of the drill into granite.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
by
that's not
comparison,
hand cranked. Fuck that.
by
Wow,
comparison,
all right, get the numbers. Come on, you got the flip through the chart, dude. God, you got
a
it.
diamond drill is going to be
You make me feel so underprepared. By the way, all I do to prepare for these is roll a spliff.
Nah, I can't find. It's like a diamond drill is 1/5000th of an inch per revolution, right? So this is like 500 times more efficient than a diamond drill, right? Whatever it is that they used. And
Okay.
so,
Well, that's from outer space, then. Obviously, I mean, come on.
well, Chris Dunn's like maybe it was like a supersonic, like vibrating at a super high frequency or something like that.
Like I think at some point you just got to be like, let's cut to the fucking chase. I mean, ancient goddamn aliens, dude. It's
No, dude,
literally
no, I don't-
written on the walls of that
I-
place. They
I
drew
used to love that
weird
show, and I
creatures just to
don't-
tell us.
They say everything's aliens. It's like, cut
Well,
us
and
a
I love
break,
that their key
dude.
phrase is ancient
know?
astronaut theorists believe. They
Yeah,
put that in front of
yeah.
everything. Ancient astronaut theorists believe. Ancient
Yeah, yeah.
astronaut theorists believe. Oh yes,
Maybe
they believe.
is-
all right.
Is this
But
evidence
belief
of
is
an
the key word,
ancient-
But here's my whole thing.
Yeah.
To shed some light on that, I think the ancient aliens putting their belief is no different than these brainy guys crawling through batshit putting their own scientific beliefs on the situation. I'm saying that human element of us putting a belief on it and accepting it ourselves, something we're all doing, and we just use a different language. Ancient aliens use their language. These guys crawling through batshit use their language. But the point is, there's no way to verify if anyone's belief that they've put on the situation is absolutely what happened or is happening or going to happen. You know what I mean? They're all equal blind fucking guesses
at the end
in
of
the
the
dark.
day,
At the
like,
end of the day.
you have to make peace with like, we're
Yeah.
just not
Yeah.
gonna know.
Yeah, and everyone's got their
Unless,
perspective and their angle on it. Some people have
unless-
this angle, some people have that angle, but that's all it is an angle.
unless Elon Musk buys the pyramids, dude. That's what we need to happen. We just need some billionaire to buy them, and they can launch their own investigations, dude. Like, I don't know.
Dude, that fucker.
Have Trump buy them.
I saw his Starlink
Have
again the
Trump buy
other
the
day, and it
pyramids.
tripped me out, dude. I stood in my
Oh, you saw
driveway.
it? Yeah.
Well, for a second time, I told you about the first time. Second time it was different. I pulled into my driveway, and there was this it's probably like a ruler length, in the sky, and they were popping out of the darkness and then fading out. But they lasted for about like a 3-second trail, and they're bright like satellites, and they had like an even spacing between each one. And this was going for like several minutes. It was like one would pop out, boop, pop out, boop, boop, and it was just going. I was like, but what got weird is the last like minute of it, suddenly there was like kind of like buckshots coming out, and it'd be like 2 or 3 next to each other in a little cluster go by.
Whoa.
But they weren't uniform. Sometimes it'd be like 2 side by side, then be like 3, and then it'd just be 1 again.
I don't know if
And
that was Starlink then.
I know.
Starlink
It started
doesn't
out, it
really
looked
move
like it was like I
that.
said, it was ones in even succession going, and I was like, oh, there's go that Starlink thing. But then at the end, there was ones that were like they looked like they were like
Wobbling around?
yeah, or they were outside of the line, but they were like almost like following it or something. It was very interesting. I'll admit. And I stood there for I just got out of my car on a weeknight, was like standing there, right there, like, huh, what the fuck?
That is strange. Yeah, Starlink's not really supposed to oscillate like that. That's
Dude,
interesting.
I mean, and again, it's one of those things. People tell you it's one thing, but I mean, it's all just an angle. It's all an
Yeah,
angle.
clever ruse, dude.
Clever ruse.
That's just Starlink. You know,
Yeah.
don't worry about that shit. It's
Now-
just Starlink.
That'll be part of our cosmic sound podcast next week. We'll tie it all
Dope.
into Starlink
Hell yeah.
and that fucker
Sounds
Musk.
good.
We'll take him down. We'll use this
Yep.
podcast to start the revolution against Starlink.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Shoot
yeah,
at him
yeah.
with a BB gun.
Yeah. But
All right. Anything
but-
else on the pyramids?
I think
Careful.
I still don't. I'm not sure. You still danced around it and didn't give me just this hard line.
What?
I want. I
No,
want a
that-
crazy fringe. This is what you believe. You
Well,
think
right
it's,
now,
you think
the
it's
ancient
Nebulon
civilization.
aliens who came and gave
You
him
know?
tools. You haven't given me your theory yet. You've given me everyone else's theory. But what does Jordan Hebert believe?
That's my theory, dude.
Well,
That it was
that-
an ancient civilization.
Okay.
you
Well,
know?
but how did they do it? Well, how did they? I know we all know. We all know. That's not an answer. Ancient Egypt, of course, was an ancient civilization.
No, I mean like a older civilization that made it, and then they inherited it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's this ancient civilization? Atlantis or something? Or
Yeah, something like that.
oh.
Oh, kid woke up again. All
Got
right.
nightmares.
Let's wrap it up,
happening.
man.
Okay. All right. Well, I think you've given me enough to go on. I think I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, just an ancient civilization built it, and then the Egyptians inherited it. That's what I'll say. It wasn't a tomb. That's all I know. It wasn't a tomb.
Okay. Good to know.
So-
And I still think it was Stargates and ancient aliens.
I like the Stargates. Yeah,
Yeah. Stargate makes
is a good
sense.
theory.
I think they were just like, they're like, we want to get the fuck out of here. Let's build this thing and go.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, speaking
Yeah,
of getting the
for
fuck
sure.
out of here, thanks for tuning in to this one, and we will do episode 4 real soon, my man. The Yim Yam
All right.
podcast out, my dude.